Chapter 418. The inspection team's mission was to discover and report any danger. Feng Zhao and the others didn't have anything else to do. Whale Island region's internal security guards and other relevant personnel would investigate further. Feng Zhao only found out from inspection team Captain Zhao Chao the next day that they had caught someone. The cylinder that Curly Hair had found was split into two parts. One half was deodorant, and the other half was one of the materials used to make bombs. Zhang Zian had thought that if he could fool the dog's nose and the portable security detector, it would be better to put it in the dog toilet, where no one would think of it. After all, as the saying goes, the more dangerous the place, the safer it is. No one would think of putting something in the toilet of a working dog. When the time was right, they would get a designated person to take it out and make it into an explosive. The person who had planned this probably hadn't expected that a dog would still be able to sniff it out. However, based on the information they had obtained, it could be deduced that the item had been placed there beforehand. After all, this item wouldn't have been able to pass the high-level airport security checks during the conference. It could be confirmed that there were people inside and outside Whale Island. Now that 2 outsiders had been caught, there was no telling how many more were left. The people hidden within Whale Island had yet to be caught. Everyone has to be cautious these few days. Search carefully and don't let any suspicious areas slip by. Captain Zhao Chao called for a small meeting. Those on duty would have the meeting minutes for them to see. After exhorting them, Zhao Chao had Feng Zhao stay behind for a private chat. Feng Zhao, you have to work hard. Bring Curly Hair to a few more places. Curly Hair's meritorious service surprised Zhao Chao. At the same time, he understood why Curly Hair, a pet dog, had been recommended here. This dog was truly capable. No wonder he was the dog that had forced Muzhou's sheep-herding competition to change its rules. This kind of dog, whether it was in the anti-smuggling zone or in the special forces, was extremely popular. Following Feng Zhao was a waste of his talent. Furthermore, a dog that had been a sheepdog wasn't hot-blooded enough. What a pity. Feng Zhao's ears were good, but some things couldn't be done with good hearing. He still had to rely on a dog. However, Zhao Chao also knew that the person who had recommended Curly Hair and Feng Zhao had definitely taken a liking to Curly Hair. However, even that person hadn't been able to snatch the dog from Feng Zhao, so it was even more impossible for him. Now, he could only give Feng Zhao more missions. There was no other way. Who asked that dog to be so awesome? Capable people did more work. With the current situation, it's impossible to move the airport security equipment to every building. There are many places that aren't convenient to search, and the efficiency of searching is limited. Curly Hair's nose is very sensitive. You can lead him around more. Of course, if you have any additional requests, the team will try our best to satisfy them. Captain, Feng Zhao said, "What? Do you want an extra meal?" Special cases were special. Zhao Chao gritted his teeth and went through the team doctor to approve extra rations. There was enough for both dogs and humans. I know you can eat a lot, but your dog might not be the same as you. If you notice anything wrong with it, hurry and send it to the team doctor. Zhao Chao was still worried about Feng Zhao. Understood. Feng Zhao nodded. Also, keep a close eye on it. Don't let it eat random things. Don't let dogs eat random things that humans eat. Some things can't be given to dogs even if the amount is small. I know. I will keep an eye on him, Feng Zhao replied. It's good that you know what you're doing. Zhao Chao thought about how Feng Zhao had been raising dogs for quite some time and knew the basics. Seeing that Feng Zhao was serious and didn't look like he was being perfunctory, Zhao Chao felt a little more at ease. On further thought, people who could enter the Whale Island region weren't idiots. They all had rather high standards and wouldn't throw things around. Thus, there wasn't much for Curly Hair to eat. Thus, Zhao Chao was relieved. The specially approved extra rations arrived very quickly. Feng Zhao gave his portion to Curly Hair. If Curly Hair was hungry, he could go to the canteen. With an extra meal, Curly Hair's mental state was slightly better, and he didn't keep staring at other dogs' bowls. The higher-ups wanted to give Feng Zhao a mission. After Feng Zhao agreed, Zhao Chao transferred 7 people over. 5 of them were about the same age as Feng Zhao, while the other 2 were slightly older. Zhao Chao had his own considerations when it came to this assignment. Feng Zhao's seniority was shallow, so it was fine for him to lead the younger team members. As for the two older ones, he was worried that the younger team members wouldn't have any experience and wouldn't know how to deal with situations. Around 3 p.m. on the second day of the Whale Island Conference, Feng Zhao was leading the team to patrol the building when he received a group notification from Zhao Chao. Southeast corner. Suspicious personnel discovered. Heading over to Building 15. Feng Zhao's current location was also in the southeast region of Whale Island. The team members who received the message hurriedly headed over. The suspicious personnel that Zhao Chao had mentioned had some ability to sneak in, avoid the surveillance cameras, and successfully escape capture. What Zhao Chao had meant was for the inspection team in the southeast region to bring their dogs over to assist the Whale Island Guard in their pursuit. Feng Zhao's team wasn't the closest, but they were still in this region. They had already finished patrolling the few buildings here and hadn't discovered anything out of the ordinary, so they rushed over in the direction Zhao Chao had mentioned. After running for a short distance, they encountered a fence that had been temporarily added during the conference. It wasn't far in a straight line, but going around the fence would take some time. A slightly older team member decisively pointed to the left. Go around there. Before he could finish his sentence, he saw that Feng Zhao had already flipped over. The fence was over 5 meters tall. In the blink of an eye, Feng Zhao had already reached the other side. Following closely behind Feng Zhao, 2 other young team members also flipped over. They climbed up and then fell. The other team members who had been preparing to flip over the fence, "Do you have any tools? This sort of anti-climbing fence isn't easy to climb." Another person who had slid down from the fence said. If he hadn't tried it before, he would have really thought that this sort of fence was easy to flip over. His fingers had almost broken just now. The design and paint of this fence isn't easy to climb. Even if it was a temporary movable fence, it still wasn't easy to flip over. It was still possible with tools, but it was too difficult to do it barehanded without tools. Some of the more experienced members in the team might succeed after a few tries, but to flip over as nimbly as Feng Zhao had, there really weren't many who could guarantee success. Most of the people assigned to Feng Zhao's team were younger. They could train dogs, but their individual abilities could only be considered above average. The 2 older members had experience, but their individual abilities were a little lacking. Furthermore, even if they could climb, they couldn't be like Feng Zhao and leave the dog behind to act alone. Feng Zhao, who had already flipped over to the other side, told his team members, "I'll go over first. You guys make a detour and follow me." An older team member replied, "Understood. You go over first. I'll help you hold the dog." Before he could finish, the team members discovered that Curly Hair had already made his way through the narrow gap below the fence and was standing beside Feng Zhao. Other team members, who designed this fence? How could there be a gap at the bottom? Only a small dog like Curly Hair could squeeze through the gap below the fence. It was really too difficult for the others. Even if the shorter and skinnier ones could squeeze through, they couldn't just leave the dog behind, right? All the dogs in their small team were medium to large-sized dogs. Now wasn't the time to lament. They had to hurry and chase after Feng Zhao. They didn't have the ability to efficiently flip over the fence, nor could they squeeze through the gap like small dogs, so they could only speed up and make a detour. This was slightly more efficient than trying to climb over the fence. However, Feng Zhao was a youngster who specialized in literature. How could he flip over the fence so smoothly? Chapter 419. It's a little troublesome, and I can't make it tonight. See you guys tomorrow night. Future Heavenly King M. Currently typing. Please wait a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 420. When Feng Zhao found Zhao Chao was standing in front of a building talking to someone. He didn't look too good. The building was surrounded by island guards. Feng Zhao walked over after Zhao Chao ended the call. Did he go inside? Feng Zhao asked. Zhao Chao raised his hand and rubbed his forehead in distress. In the comprehensive laboratory building, 70% of the building doesn't allow animals outside of the laboratory to enter. Some of the guards have already gone in, and they have also contacted the staff in the building to cooperate. Right now, this building is only for entry and not exit. The laboratory building was the last place that inspection dogs wanted to go. Even if they were allowed to go in, their status would be affected. The atmosphere in the building made the inspection dogs nervous. Fang Zhao got Curly Hair to stay outside and let a member of the inspection team hold Curly Hair while he entered with Zhao Chao. This laboratory building was divided into 3 units. The target had entered from Unit 1. After the building was sealed, they would focus on searching Unit 1. The staff in the building received the order to stay in their respective offices or laboratories. They minimized going out and were also on guard against strangers. When Fang Zhao and the others entered the building, they were greeted by a man in white work attire. The badge on his chest indicated that he had a high status in the building. There was no trace of nervousness or unease on his face. Instead, there was an undisguised disgust. This disgust was not directed at Fang Zhao and the others, but at the intruders. You need to increase your efficiency. They hadn't even caught him yet. Can you imagine the disgusting feeling of suddenly discovering foreign bacteria in this sterile room? Chao Zhao paused and didn't reply. Instead, he introduced Fang Zhao and the others who had entered with him. This is the current person in charge of Unit 1 of the comprehensive laboratory building, a biochemical virus expert, Dr. Tim Nicholas. Here, the building manager of the laboratory building was completely different from the building manager of the student dormitory. His status was equivalent to the CEO of a company, and many of the laboratory projects in the building were also presided over by this building manager. If the inspection team, island district guards, and related investigators wanted to search the building, they would need his authorization. Otherwise, it would be inconvenient to enter and exit the building. Of course, the building manager was quite cooperative in the current situation. He handed over all the videos captured by the surveillance cameras in the building. However, he was not satisfied with the efficiency of the search. You can just call me Dr. Nick. Nick, the building manager, was only in his 50s this year. He was quite young in the field of scientific research. To be able to achieve his current status at this age, there was no doubt about his scientific research ability. However, what Zhao Chao didn't mention was that this building manager, Nick, had amazing research capabilities. With his capabilities and research results, 10 years ago, he was already in charge of many important projects and became the building manager of the island's experimental building. As for why he had only just become a building manager, he had offended too many people. Professor Nick didn't know what Zhao Chao was thinking. He had already introduced the buildings division to the guards, and now he was giving Zhao Chao and the others a simple explanation. During the conference, there are at least 3 highly dangerous viruses stored here. But don't worry, please trust the building's security system. Moreover, the viruses that could be brought in have been neutralized. Dr. Nick was very excited when he talked about the project he was working on. Biochemistry and viruses had always been popular fields. This was not only because of the period of destruction disaster, but also because of the immigration plan, which required the development of vaccines, antidotes, and so on, to improve defense capabilities. It was also because of this that this research field was able to get more funding, cultivate more talents, and produce more results. All biological substances that could be used as weapons were forbidden to be used. However, humans had never stopped researching them. Because of the disaster during the period of destruction, people would be afraid when talking about these things, but they had to overcome it. Dr. Nick rambled on and on. Seeing that he was getting more and more excited as he spoke, it seemed like he wouldn't stop talking. Zhao Chao called out to stop him. They didn't have the time to listen to Nick ramble on. They just needed to know the general situation in the building. The island district guards who had entered the building to search had yet to find the target. The surveillance cameras had only captured the moment the target entered the building and then disappeared. The laboratory building wasn't equipped with surveillance cameras everywhere. Some places weren't equipped with any surveillance equipment due to their secrecy. And the target was clearly someone who was good at avoiding surveillance cameras. It was indeed troublesome. Zhao Chao frowned. Looks like the help the surveillance cameras can provide is limited. Dr. Nick spread out his hands. I've already helped as much as I can. I'm very anxious now. Please understand the misophobia of a virus researcher. Zhao Chao swept a glance at him. Just by looking at Nick's expression, apart from obvious disgust, he couldn't see any signs of anxiety. However, Zhao Chao was also worried about the current situation. He had contacted the island guard captain who had led the team over, but they hadn't found any clues either. The target was definitely inside the building. As for where he was hiding, they really wouldn't be able to find it in a short period of time. The building was so big. How long would it take to search? Every minute that passed meant more uncertainty and danger. How about we let the dogs in to search? When machines weren't reliable, Zhao Chao thought of dogs. Unit Manager Nick didn't reply immediately. After thinking for a while, he said, "There are a few floors in the building that require specific clothes and all sorts of sterilization procedures. It doesn't matter for humans, but it's hard to say for dogs. There aren't any special clothes for dogs here. If you can't find a more efficient method, you can also bring the dogs in, but you bear the risk. Also, many places in the building have self-cleaning procedures. Even the most outstanding sniffer dogs might not be able to pick up the scent." Fang Zhao had been listening to the conversation between Unit Manager Nick and Zhao Chao, his gaze fixed on the surveillance screen. When he heard this, he said to Zhao Chao, "Curly Hair is just outside. The nearby inspection team members should have arrived. We can first bring them to search the floors that don't require complicated procedures. At the same time, if the surveillance cameras in the building have recordings, I can give it a try. My hearing isn't bad." A member of the island guard team shook his head. "We have already analyzed the recordings. There is too much noise in the building. It won't be easy to analyze the target's movements." The noise from all sorts of equipment in the building was too loud. Even after layers of filtering, they couldn't determine which were the target's movements and which were just noise. "I can give it a try," Fang Zhao said. Zhao Chao thought about it for a moment and agreed. He got the team members to bring in the inspection dogs waiting outside and search the floors that didn't require complicated procedures. Fang Zhao would start tracking the target based on the sounds from the surveillance cameras in the building. This wasn't the first time Fang Zhao had done something like this. Back on Planet Y, Fang Zhao had used this method to track down killers. There was indeed a lot of noise in the building. Fang Zhao picked up the audio signals one by one and dissected them in his mind, analyzing them and extracting the information he needed. Putting himself in Fang Zhao's shoes, if he were to infiltrate this place, where would he go and where would he avoid? With his extraordinary hearing ability and rich experience in tracking, avoiding danger, and escaping, the path he was taking now was practically the same as the infiltrators. Furthermore, Fang Zhao's tracking speed wasn't any slower than the infiltrators. The people Zhao Chao had sent to follow, and a few members of the island guard team, couldn't keep up after a while. Inside the building's main control room, Zhao Chao and the island guard captain's jaws dropped as they stared at the image on the monitor screen. On the screen were real-time images captured by the surveillance cameras, as well as Fang Zhao's location and movement path. The island guard captain finally managed to close his jaw with great difficulty and pointed at the monitor screen. Those ears of his. No wonder so many people have their eyes on him. This was also the first time Zhao Chao was deeply aware of how miraculous Fang Zhao's ears were. No wonder a music artist like him would be recommended here. "Is his hearing very good?" Dr. Nick asked. "You don't know him? I thought you researchers were all interested in his ears," Zhao Chao said. Nick shook his head. He was in the field of biochemistry and virus research, and he rarely paid attention to news outside of research, so he really didn't know much about Fang Zhao. Zhao Chao used 2 sentences to summarize the contributions of Fang Zhao's miraculous ears. Nowadays, he is also jokingly called dieting by others. Now it seems like it really isn't an exaggeration. He really can hear sounds that others can't. These ears are even more useful than machines. Zhao Chao was completely used to his profession and first considered the practicalities of his work. However, Unit Manager Nick's focus was completely different from Zhao Chao's. After hearing Zhao Chao's evaluation of Fang Zhao, his expression turned rather ugly. "So, as long as it isn't completely soundproof, within a close distance, he can actually hear other people's conversations?" Nick asked with a straight face. "Theoretically speaking, that's correct. That also means that he can hear quite a number of laboratory secrets." Unit Manager Nick asked again. Zhao Chao stuttered. After regaining his senses, he also understood what Unit Manager Nick meant. Indeed, the locations where the surveillance cameras were installed did not require too much secrecy, and the audio recordings provided to Feng Zhao also did not contain too much important information, but the few areas that Feng Zhao's movements had passed through were all unmonitored areas. They all involved important research secrets. As for Feng Zhao, in terms of status, he was only here as a reserve member and was considered a temporary worker. There were some information that he could not access. No wonder Unit Manager Nick's expression instantly turned gloomy. He signed a confidentiality agreement, Zhao Chao could only say. After all, Feng Zhao was his own teammate. Feng Zhao had done this to capture the target as quickly as possible. Zhao Chao had to protect him. Those don't count. What I need is a high-level confidentiality agreement that is accurate to the project, accurate to the culture medium formula. Unit Manager Nick's gaze was glued to the surveillance screen showing Feng Zhao's movements. He coldly said, "One confidentiality agreement." And following Feng Zhao's rapid movements, 2 confidentiality agreements. In a short while, 3, 4. Unit Manager Nick's face became more and more rigid. Watching Feng Zhao's movements on the surveillance screen, he thought to himself, did that fellow actually hear my research secrets? How much did he hear? Regardless of whether he heard it or not, I still have to sign those confidentiality agreements. Chapter 421. In a lounge on the 5th floor of the first unit of the laboratory building, a young researcher in white overalls had blood dripping from his forehead. His lips were as pale as his face. His entire body was trembling from extreme fear. Large drops of sweat or tears fell to the ground. Next to his neck, a sharp blade exuded a cold aura. Goosebumps appeared on his neck. The person holding the knife had a sinister look in his eyes. His exposed skin was strangely red as if it had been scalded by hot water. Blood spots seeped out, and his breathing was rapid. The knife wielder was the target of the island's security. The young experimenter he threatened was a student of building manager Nick. Due to his excellent results this year, he had won the opportunity to stay on the island. Although with his current qualifications, he could only do odd jobs here and follow the project team leader around. This was enough for him to brag about. Today, as usual, he finished his assigned tasks and came here to rest for a while. As soon as he came in, he received a notice from Unit Manager Nick, asking everyone to stay indoors as much as possible. At the same time, they were to cooperate with the search and report any abnormalities immediately. 10 minutes ago, a security guard came to inquire. He said that everything was normal and that there was no suspicious person. The guard also asked him to lock the door when he was indoors, which he did. Unexpectedly, as soon as the guard left, he locked the door and turned around to find someone coming out of the freezer. The young researcher felt that his luck was terrible today. His experiment was not going smoothly, and then he encountered something like this. He tried to resist, but he stayed in the laboratory all year round and lacked training. He had just mustered the courage to make some noise when he was beaten. His head still hurt, but fear made him ignore the pain. He didn't even know that his forehead was bleeding. The young researcher thought that he was going to die, but as time passed, the intruder didn't seem to have any intention of killing him immediately. He didn't seem to want to escape, and he didn't ask about any secrets of the laboratory. His bloodshot eyes stared at the door. After the initial fear passed, he gradually regained some of his rationality. The young researcher didn't dare to look at the intruder directly. He glanced at the hand holding the knife from the corner of his eyes. The blood spots on the man's forearm made his pupils shrink. When he saw the sealed bottle in the man's other hand, the tears that had just stopped started flowing again. He was all too familiar with that kind of sealed bottle. As a person who studied viruses, he saw that kind of sealed bottle every day. It was meant to contain the virus, but now, the sealed bottle in the other party's hand was open, which meant that the lounge was already contaminated. Time. It's about time. Every breath of the person holding the saber seemed to be in great pain. As he spoke, the blood rushed to his throat, and he spat out a large mouthful of blood. Looking at the blood that splashed on his body, the experimenter's teeth were chattering. The other party let out a maniacal laugh and didn't say anything else. He stuffed the researcher's mouth with a rag and smacked the researcher's head, causing the wound that had already stopped bleeding to bleed again. Outside the lounge, Fang Zhao stopped at this point. He raised his hand and gestured for the guardsmen to retreat. Zhao Chao and the guard captain frowned when they saw this scene from the surveillance camera. "What does he mean?" asked the captain of the guards. Maybe he heard something. Just as Zhao Chao finished his sentence, he received a message from Fang Zhao, and his expression changed. The Coast Guard captain broke out in a cold sweat. He contacted the people following Fang Zhao on that floor and told them not to approach for the time being and to wait for orders. At the same time, the other small team that had changed into virus protection suits quickly headed over. It's too late. Unit manager Nick activated the quarantine procedures for that floor. The next moment, the door to the lounge in front of Fang Zhao opened. The experimenter's consciousness was already fuzzy, and he couldn't see the situation in front of him clearly. He knew that he was being used as a meat shield. The door to the lounge opened. He was very anxious. He knew the consequences of the virus spreading. He wanted to shout and tell everyone what had happened here so that Unit Manager Nick could activate the virus protection and quarantine procedures, but he couldn't make a sound. He only saw a silhouette in front of him, and then, bang! The experimenter felt the hands on his back that were like the claws of the Grim Reaper loosen. Behind him, the target that was being chased by the inspection team and Coast Guard had died with his eyes wide open and blood spurting from his forehead. In the building's surveillance room, the two captains were just about to urge the snipers to get into position when they saw Fang Zhao raise his gun and fire. Fang Zhao's voice came through Zhao Chao's earpiece. "Reporting, Captain. The target has been shot." Zhao Chao, Island Guard Captain. The inspection team that Zhao Chao led usually assisted in tracking down and apprehending targets. If anything happened, it was the Coast Guard that rushed forward. It was very rare for them to be faster than the Island Guard. And in that situation just now, making a move required a lot of courage and precise judgment. The seasoned Island Guard knew that if they encountered such a situation, they would kill the target in one shot. However, the members of the inspection team were more gentle. Even if the inspection team's marksmanship was good, they might be concerned about the experimenter in front of them, or they might be thinking about leaving the target alive for further questioning. Thus, they might hesitate and not dare to fire, missing the opportunity and causing even greater losses. The Island Guard squad members who were standing a little further away but had clearly seen the scene of Fang Zhao firing his gun. Gentle? Regardless of what everyone was thinking, the target had already been shot dead. The spread of the virus had been controlled within a small area. Everyone in that area had been taken away and quarantined. Unit Supervisor Nick quickly obtained information on the virus. A type of synthetic virus created by some people courting death. It can't be considered a finished product, just a semi-finished product. It spreads through the air and has a limited ability to invade susceptible bodies. However, if it successfully invades, it will be very troublesome. The time it takes to flare up depends on one's constitution. It can be as short as a few minutes, or as long as 10 to 20 days. According to the experimental data we obtained, the longest is 29 days. The incubation period is very difficult to determine. I'm afraid you will have to be quarantined here for a month. That also means that even if the Whale Island conference ends, you won't be able to return for the holidays. Welcome to the Memorial Day team. In the new era, Memorial Day was the most important holiday of the year. Office workers had a rare long vacation, and it was also the best day of the year for family reunions. When Fang Zhao had spoken to Great-Grandfather Fang not long before he had arrived at Whale Island region, Great-Grandfather Fang had even asked Fang Zhao to return to Yenzhou for the holidays. Given the current situation, it was probably impossible for him to return. He still had to explain things to Great-Grandfather Fang. However, now wasn't the time to think about this. If I am diagnosed with this virus, can it be cured? What's the mortality rate? Fang Zhao asked. It can be cured. The mortality rate of this virus isn't considered high. It's only 17%, Unit Supervisor Nick replied. Zhao Chao, who had been standing silently to the side, nearly jumped up when he heard this. A mortality rate of 17% was already very high. Only people like Nick, who were constantly exposed to deadly viruses, would think that this number was low. As the inspection team captain, Zhao Chao felt guilty as he watched Fang Zhao being quarantined. Fang Zhao wasn't even 30 years old and was still a temporary worker. If the situation wasn't dire, he wouldn't have let Fang Zhao rush to the front. This time, the rest of the Coast Guard team was still fine. Because of Fang Zhao's warning, the small team didn't approach. After the target was killed, the quarantine was quick, and the possibility of them being infected was very low. Now, the only ones in danger were Fang Zhao and that unlucky researcher. How are the researcher's injuries? Fang Zhao asked. It's not a big deal. Although he suffered some injuries, fortunately, he was injected with 2 types of antidotes for his experiments. These 2 antidotes happen to have a certain protective effect against this type of synthetic virus. The effective period of the antidote is 24 hours, and it hasn't expired yet. However, isolation is still necessary. Even if his injuries are healed, he will still be quarantined for a month like you. The 2 of you, as well as that floor's Coast Guard team, will have to join the Memorial Day team, Unit Supervisor Nick said. The guilt in Zhao Chao's heart deepened. What Nick meant was that Fang Zhao was the only one in danger. Fang Zhao was a member of the art circles and was doing well, but he was called over to carry out a mission and was quarantined. Quarantine was fine. As long as he didn't get infected, a month would pass very quickly. But if he got infected, Zhao Chao wanted to console Fang Zhao. Just as he was about to speak, he heard Fang Zhao ask, "The person who was killed shouldn't have been in contact with the virus for a long time. From the looks of it, he only opened the sealed vial after entering that resting room? Where did the virus come from?" Unit Supervisor Nick nodded. Currently, only that area was infected. Therefore, he indeed opened the sealed vial after entering that resting room. This kind of sealed vial also requires time to open. We don't know where the virus came from, but that's the Investigation Bureau's problem. As for why he acted up so quickly, it was because he had already been stimulated by the drug. His nerves and muscles were overstimulated, and after that, his cells and organs became abnormal. "Something isn't right," Fang Zhao said. "It still hasn't ended." Without waiting for Zhao Chao and Nick to ask further, both of them received a call at practically the same time. Just now, after the Whale Island guard captain had questioned the injured researcher about some details, he also had a bad premonition. He had gotten the other 2 units in the laboratory building to conduct another investigation. Then, he received a reply that a vial of a supervirus had been lost at Unit 3. Unit 3 had been careless and had been exploited. The unit supervisor would surely be fired, but now wasn't the time to pursue who was responsible. Zhao Chao immediately contacted his team and transferred over the inspection team's dogs that specialized in this field. Unit Supervisor Nick's expression wasn't good, but it wasn't to the extent of being irritable. The one that was lost is also a type of synthetic virus, but it's classified as a supervirus. If the virus escapes, all vertebrates in the entire Whale Island region will suffer a calamity. However, viruses of this grade are sealed with multiple layers of encryption, and the material used is special. It will take quite some time to forcefully open it. Given the intensity of the search in the island region, the person who stole the virus simply doesn't have the time to open it. But if he escapes, the consequences will be unthinkable. Fortunately, we discovered it in time. All the checkpoints in the island region have already been sealed. Zhao Chao glanced at Fang Zhao. "Let's borrow your curly hair for a while." Many inspection dogs only listen to the commands of their trainers. Curly Hair was just a dog. He didn't have a professional background. He was smart, but he didn't have any sense of responsibility. He only listened to Fang Zhao. Zhao Chao could only bring it to Fang Zhao. When Curly Hair saw Fang Zhao, he wanted to rush forward. When he touched the safety glass, he wanted to claw at it, but was stopped by Fang Zhao. "Curly Hair, bring Captain Zhao Chao to search for the missing virus. Don't let the thief leave Whale Island." Curly Hair squatted in front of the safety glass and whimpered unwillingly. Fang Zhao crouched down and looked at Curly Hair outside the safety glass of the quarantine room. "I can't go out now. Let Captain Zhao Chao bring you out on a mission. After the mission is completed, I'll bring you back to play a new game." Because there were others around, Fang Zhao didn't dare speak too clearly. However, Curly Hair understood Fang Zhao's meaning. His drooping ears straightened up, and he wagged his tail as he looked at Fang Zhao before walking over to Zhao Chao. Zhao Chao recalled what Fang Zhao had said to Curly Hair and categorized them. First, Find the missing vial of virus. Second, prevent the person who stole the virus from leaving the island. He didn't miss anything, so there shouldn't be any problems. To talk in a trite tone. I didn't finish typing it yesterday. Chapter 422. After Zhao Chao left with curly hair, Fang Zhao sat in the quarantine room and pondered quietly. Not far from him, there were other quarantine rooms where Fang Zhao's team members were also quarantined for observation. However, compared to Fang Zhao's quietness, the atmosphere there was much more restless. Knowing that a dangerous individual was hiding on the island and had even stolen a vial of the supervirus, how could they sit still? They often dealt with such matters and were all too clear on the consequences of the virus escaping. But now, no matter how worried they could only stay in the quarantine room and worry. Slurp, slurp, slurp. Unit manager Nick walked over with a bowl of instant noodles and sat in front of the quarantine room, watching them as he ate. Unit manager Nick, you still have the mood to eat instant noodles? One of the guards looked as if he had seen some mystical new species. You actually eat instant noodles in your own laboratory. Another guard was also flabbergasted. He still remembered when their team had just entered the building to search. This unit manager had said that he was a clean freak. What fucking clean freak? If it had been the previous unit manager, he definitely wouldn't have allowed a situation like eating instant noodles indoors. Other than the resting room, snacks and other things were simply not allowed anywhere else, let alone something as demonic as instant noodles. This was simply pollution. This unit manager couldn't do it. Facing those stunned gazes, unit manager Nick ate another mouthful without batting an eyelid. Then, he said slowly, "This isn't a laboratory. This is a quarantine room. The space outside the quarantine room is a free activity zone. The air circulation system will efficiently remove odors and disinfect at the same time." Slurp, slurp, slurp. Eating instant noodles? This smell is really intoxicating. Unit manager Nick asked the people in the quarantine room. The quarantined guards. Who would be in the mood to eat instant noodles at a time like this? This feeling of only being able to wait and do nothing really made them anxious. Calm down, Nick said. No one would be able to calm down when faced with such a situation. A guard said. Unit manager Nick tilted his head. The other guards followed his line of sight and saw Fang Zhao sitting on a chair with a calm expression. All the guards. They didn't think that Fang Zhao was really calm. They believed that Fang Zhao had received too much of an impact. After all, among the quarantined people, Fang Zhao was in the most danger. The one most likely to be infected was Fang Zhao. But no matter what, Fang Zhao had helped save them this time. When he didn't know how to console them, he remained silent. Unit manager Nick had no intention of staying silent. He continued to tempt them with his bowl of instant noodles. What you need now is food. Food can replenish your energy, and it is also a good medicine to dissolve anxiety and anxiety. Aren't you worried at all? A young guard couldn't help but ask. Nick shook his head. I do worry, but it's useless. I just need to do what I'm supposed to do and leave the rest to the professionals. You have to believe in your teammates. They're not that useless. Given the current situation, even if they can't catch them in a short time, they won't let them escape. What if? Another island guard asked. He liked to think the worst of everything. Unit manager Nick said with certainty, with the island's armed forces, there's no chance. Unless people can suddenly disappear. On the other side, the operatives had already set off from Unit 3 of the laboratory building. The inspection team had transferred over 7 dogs to assist in the search, including Thornhead and Kay, the 2 ace dogs. Curly Hair took the lead. Now, Zhao Chao wasn't the one carrying it, but it was the one dragging Zhao Chao. Sometimes, it would complain that Zhao Chao was running too slow, and it would even turn around to urge him. The island guards following behind had a doubtful attitude. He has quite the momentum and speed, but is that dog really chasing? Isn't he running blindly? He should be following the scent. Look at those dogs behind him. They're all following the same route. The clues provided by the surveillance cameras also coincide with this route. It shouldn't be wrong. Not every area had surveillance cameras, and there were also problems with some surveillance cameras. There were a few areas where there was a pause of 5 to 10 seconds. The surveillance cameras had been interfered with. As for the specifics, there would be relevant personnel to resolve it. Zhao Chao and the others' current mission was to find that lost vial of virus as soon as possible. As Curly Hair ran, he suddenly stopped and sniffed the ground. Why did you stop? The sentinel captain who was following closely behind looked at Zhao Chao. Zhao Chao shook his head silently and stared at Curly Hair. Curly Hair sniffed the ground, then raised his head and twitched his nose. Woof, woof, woof. Zhao Chao and the sentinel captain glanced at each other and moved a ladder to remove the buckle on the ceiling. It's here. The sentinel captain was extremely excited. He put on his gloves and carefully removed a sealed vial of virus from the buckle. After carefully inspecting it, he confirmed that the sealed vial was the one that had been lost. It wasn't damaged or opened. He got someone to bring over a storage container, place the sealed vial inside, and seal it. The sentinel captain took a deep breath and chuckled. How treacherous. Knowing that there are too many people following, the encirclement is too strong, and the exit is sealed, the things can't be brought out, so he hid it on the ceiling. It really can avoid most inspection dogs. The missing supervirus was the main focus of the chase. It was fine if they couldn't catch the person, but the virus must be recovered. They were already more than half relieved. The dogs had already followed the scent to search for the person. Apart from some dogs with exceptional talents, the rest would really miss this place. This dog isn't bad. Really impressive. The sentinel captain looked at Curly Hair as though he was a treasure. Zhao Chao's face flashed with pride, but it was quickly replaced by worry. It's all thanks to Feng Zhao this time. If he hadn't found the person, we wouldn't have discovered that the virus was lost so quickly. Every second that passes means another layer of variables. The dog that found the virus is also Feng Zhao's. The sentinel captain nodded in agreement. We really have to give him a huge credit. If Feng Zhao really gets infected and doesn't make it. Sure. Zhao Chao hurriedly made a shushing gesture and glanced at the dog at his feet. Curly Hair, who had been crouching at the side, heard the sentinel captain's words and looked at the two. He didn't know what to do and suddenly got up to run back. Zhao Chao pulled on the leash. Stop. Curly Hair. The sentinel captain also helped. Hey, what is he doing? What else can he be doing? He wants to go back. Don't think that dogs can't understand human language. You said that his owner might be infected and dying. Of course he wants to run back. Zhao Chao roared. Zhao Chao knew that many intelligent dogs that received training from young or had frequent contact with humans could understand human language. Even if they didn't understand everything, they could at least understand some of it. Thornhead and Kay, those two ace dogs, belonged to the category of smart dogs and could understand a lot of human language. Previously, he hadn't expected Curly Hair to completely understand Feng Zhao's conversation with Curly Hair. Curly Hair definitely wouldn't be able to remember such a long conversation. He just needed to remember the keywords. Now, it seemed like Curly Hair could really understand quite a bit. Besides being able to understand quite a bit, Zhao Chao hadn't expected Curly Hair to be so strong. He couldn't hold him back alone. Curly Hair, stop. This is an order. Don't forget that the mission Feng Zhao gave you hasn't been completed. Sensing that the force on the leash had lessened, Zhao Chao exerted more force. Feng Zhao gave you orders to find the virus and the person. We've only found the virus. We haven't caught the person yet. Curly Hair stopped and looked at Zhao Chao. Zhao Chao didn't avoid Curly Hair's gaze. His expression was solemn and his gaze sincere. Curly Hair, Feng Zhao is still very safe. He hasn't contracted the virus. We have to continue our mission. Let's go and catch the person who stole the virus. As he spoke, Zhao Chao pointed to the front. The person who stole the virus had escaped from this direction. They had stopped because they had discovered the sealed vial of the virus. The others had already continued their chase with the dogs. Curly Hair's ears drooped as he walked step by step to Zhao Chao's feet. That pair of dog eyes looked aggrieved and pitiful, making Zhao Chao's heart soften. Sighing, Zhao Chao crouched down and raised his hand, intending to give Curly Hair a loving pat. However, before Zhao Chao's hand could touch the dog's head, Curly Hair suddenly bit at him. Curly Hair didn't bite. He just snatched the leash from Zhao Chao's hand and ran forward. This time, he wasn't running back but in the direction of the chase. The border guard captain, standing at the side, was stunned. Zhao Chao cursed softly and jumped up to pat the border guard captain. "What are you looking at? Hurry up and give chase." Curly Hair, who had snatched back the leash, was simply like a wild dog that had lost its leash. The two captains chased with all their might, but they discovered that the distance between them continued to widen. Very quickly, Curly Hair overtook the pursuing team. The border guard and inspection team only felt a gust of wind. Whoosh! Curly Hair passed by. They couldn't even stop him. "Was that a professional racing dog?" one of the guards asked. "No, that was a former professional shepherd dog. Now a temporary inspection dog. It's a professional pet dog," an inspection team member explained. Somewhere in the basement, a silhouette was running at high speed, avoiding obstacles like a nimble monkey. His ears were constantly emitting sounds from his micro earpiece, instructing him on which direction to run and how long he had to run in each direction. Suddenly, a buzzing sound came from his earpiece, as if it was being disrupted. The buzzing sound became more and more obvious, and the voice coming from the earpiece could no longer be heard clearly. The change was sudden and rapid. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears, as if the tinnitus had increased tenfold, 100-fold. Time seemed to slow down, and all his senses became sluggish. Behind him, something was rapidly approaching. His mind was blank. His vision suddenly darkened. When Zhao Chao and the others arrived, they discovered Curly Hair lying on the ground. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. Fortunately, Curly Hair was still breathing and his heartbeat was normal. Curly Hair woke up very quickly and looked around blankly. The other dogs were also just spinning around. "The scent has disappeared here," an inspection team member said. No one was satisfied with this result. How could he actually disappear under such heavy encirclement? Investigate thoroughly. Why did all the surveillance cameras malfunction for 10 seconds? Why were all communications suddenly cut off? Did the other party use some secret weapon? Or some unknown method? Many people were alarmed. Zhao Chao could only lead the team back since the pursuit was fruitless. They hadn't been able to catch the culprit, but fortunately, they had found the virus. What exactly happened just now? How could such a big person suddenly disappear? Zhao Chao couldn't understand. Maybe he knows. The border guard captain pointed at Curly Hair. As if sensing that he was being talked about, Curly Hair raised his head and looked at the border guard captain. Facing that pair of clear and innocent dog eyes, the border guard captain shook his head. "Forget it. There's no point asking him." Curly Hair hung his head and continued walking. This time, he obediently followed the team. As he walked, he burped and stuck out his tongue to lick his mouth. Chapter 423. Zhao Chao had been keeping an eye on Curly Hair. Curly Hair had escaped once before, so he had to pay even more attention this time. Seeing Curly Hair burping and licking his lips, Zhao Chao recalled the scene of Curly Hair lying on the ground and asked worriedly, did he eat something before? Could someone have poisoned him? He suspected that Curly Hair had fainted after eating some poisonous bait. Another trainer in the team observed Curly Hair's mental state and running posture before shaking his head. "I can't see anything abnormal. However, we still have to check him carefully when we get back." Interplanetary Fund personnel were arranged to stay and work in a certain special building on the island district. In one of the rooms, Little Bear was watching the news out of boredom. He had already finished watching the entire Founding Era series. He had also watched all the concerts and movies he wanted to watch. He couldn't go online casually in the Whale Island district. Because of his special body, his movements were restricted. Besides watching some news highlights, he could only play with his pet Little Riches. Suddenly, the superintelligence and the retarded robot pet in the eyes of the superintelligence stopped playing at the same time. Little Bear's hands trembled as he tried to discern that strange sound. As for Little Riches, he curled up into a ball and switched off his phone. Close to 10 seconds later, Little Bear didn't even look at Little Riches, who had switched off his phone. Instead, he ran barefooted to knock on the door next door. "Suehua." It's too dangerous here. Let's go back. Island District Comprehensive Laboratory Building, Unit 1, Quarantine Floor. The others didn't have much of a reaction, but Fang Zhao, who was deep in thought, was listening attentively. It was a very strange sound, but it had a strange familiarity to it. Fang Zhao also observed the others and didn't see any changes in their expressions. Unit Manager Nick also didn't receive any urgent calls. Thus, Fang Zhao decided to wait and see. After a while, Unit Manager Nick received a call from Zhao Chao. He had a strange expression on his face. The virus has been found, but the person who stole it hasn't been caught. It seems like he really disappeared. He really disappeared? The quarantine guards were also shocked by this news. Just as Unit Manager Nick had said, given the island district's armed forces, even if the person couldn't be caught in a short period of time, he shouldn't have been able to escape without a trace. Seeing that the guards were full of questions, Nick didn't intend to explain. He wasn't too interested. All he needed was to know that the virus had been found. He would let the investigation bureau worry about the rest. "Oh right, Fang Zhao." Nick turned around and smiled at Fang Zhao. Captain Zhao said that Curly Hair did a meritorious deed this time. Fang Zhao's heart skipped a beat. He was more surprised than happy. Fang Zhao's heart skipped a beat. When Zhao Chao brought Curly Hair over, Curly Hair wagged his tail and trotted over to Fang Zhao. Unable to enter the quarantine room, Curly Hair squatted in front of the safety glass and barked a few times. Fang Zhao didn't notice any obvious injuries on Curly Hair's body, and he seemed to be in good spirits, so he shifted his gaze to Zhao Chao. Zhao Chao panted, "Fang Zhao, your dog is quite strong. Just now, we were going to take him to the vet for a detailed examination, but he didn't cooperate and came straight here. I didn't pull him. He pulled me." Zhao Chao briefly explained the process of Curly Hair's meritorious service. Zhao Chao also mentioned how Curly Hair had collapsed for some unknown reason. Zhao Chao was speaking to Fang Zhao in the interview room next to the isolation room that Fang Zhao was in. The room was also in a privacy mode, so no sound could be heard. The originally transparent safety glass had also been turned into a slab of light, blocking the curious gazes of the nearby security guards. "The ones behind this incident are from tomorrow's empire?" Fang Zhao suddenly asked. Zhao Chao's gaze sharpened. "You've come into contact with them?" "I came into contact with them during my military service on planet Baiji," Fang Zhao replied. Zhao Chao remembered Fang Zhao's file that he had seen before. He coughed lightly and his gaze became gentle. Back when Fang Zhao had been serving on planet Baiji, he had encountered a terrorist attack. The instigators were from tomorrow's empire. Fang Zhao had even killed a few terrorists and rendered meritorious service. "It's them," Zhao Chao said. Fang Zhao's brows furrowed. Anger flashed in his eyes. "It's that bunch of scoundrels again." Seeing Fang Zhao remain silent, Zhao Chao said ruefully, "Fang Zhao, don't think too much. After the mission is over, this matter will have nothing to do with you. That's our problem. You just go and shine in the literary circles. Of course, at special times, you and your dog will be conscripted. You still have to make preparations. Don't fall behind in your training." Zhao Chao was worried that Fang Zhao was overthinking things. He was already threatened by the virus, and now there was the threat of a terrorist organization. He was only in his 20s, so he shouldn't bear too much pressure. He also didn't mention whether he was infected or not. It would only add to his worries. Seeing Zhao Chao like this, Fang Zhao didn't continue this topic. He asked Curly Hair about the mission in detail, focusing on when he had fainted. Zhao Chao didn't know much. By the time he rushed over, Curly Hair was already on the ground. He told Fang Zhao everything he knew. "What do you think we should do now? How do we get him to cooperate with the inspection? I'm just afraid he might have been drugged. We might not even be able to save him in time." Zhao Chao was worried, but he still spoke up for Curly Hair. "He overheard my conversation with the Coast Guard captain and probably knew that you were infected with the virus and were in danger, so the mission was a little rushed. Luckily, the virus was recovered and nothing serious happened. You don't have to blame him." Zhao Chao couldn't wait to protect Curly Hair, so he naturally didn't want Fang Zhao to reprimand him too much. "I understand." Fang Zhao nodded and said, "Captain, can I speak to him alone for a while?" "Sure." Zhao Chao walked out of the visitor's room and met the Coast Guard captain, who had just finished his work report and was here to visit the quarantine team members. Seeing Zhao Chao come out, the Coast Guard captain called him over. "How's Fang Zhao's situation?" "Not bad. There are no signs of infection. Right now, he is training his dog," Zhao Chao replied. The Coast Guard captain lowered his voice. "Fang Zhao, that person. When he shot the target, that technique wasn't something a rookie could do." Zhao Chao laughed when he heard this. "You don't have to worry about this. There are no problems with his background. Someone has already checked on him. Do you remember the ambush incident when Planet Baiji had just discovered the mineral deposits? That happened to be Fang Zhao's military service period." The Coast Guard captain had an impression of that incident. "Yes, I remember that. So, the matter of Fang Zhao performing meritorious deeds during the ambush incident is true? It wasn't exaggerated by the higher-ups to set a good example? I also thought it was exaggerated before, but this incident proves that this fellow is really impressive." TSK, the Coast Guard captain took a deep breath. If he wasn't trained from a young age, then he was born to eat dinner. When he safely passes his quarantine period, are we really going to let him go back to the literary circles? What can I do? He isn't willing to stay. And that dog of his, I still want to get my hands on it. But I can't even get my hands on Y Base's commanding officer. What can I do? Zhao Chao was also depressed. In the quarantine room, through the safety glass, Fang Zhao watched Curly Hair pacing back and forth in the visitor's room. "There are no surveillance cameras here. Come over and bare your teeth for me to see," Fang Zhao said. Curly Hair wagged his tail and bared his teeth, sticking close to the safety glass so that Fang Zhao could get a better look at his teeth. Fang Zhao took a closer look and didn't find anything suspicious. Curly Hair whimpered, sounding rather pitiful. Fang Zhao told him, "I'm just quarantined here. My life isn't in danger, so don't worry. After the conference ends in a few days, I'll get Nanfeng and the others to come over and pick you up." Curly Hair took a step back and whimpered unhappily. Fang Zhao didn't care about Curly Hair's mood for the time being and asked again, "Fainted before?" "Woof woof." Curly Hair wagged his tail vigorously, his entire body exuding a sense of pride. Fang Zhao raised an eyebrow. "Faked." Curly Hair puffed out his chest and wagged his tail vigorously. "Where is he?" Fang Zhao asked. Curly Hair's mouth gaped open. "Fang Zhao, it can't be what I think it is, right?" Chapter 424. Fang Zhao took a deep breath and remained silent. Seeing that Fang Zhao didn't react, Curly Hair thought that Fang Zhao didn't understand and opened his mouth even wider towards the safety glass so that Fang Zhao could see more clearly. "Fang Zhao, all right, shut up." Wiping his face, Fang Zhao asked, "How did you eat it?" For such a big person to vanish without a trace, Curly Hair's size simply couldn't do it. Curly Hair tilted his head, his expression perplexed. This time, he was really at a loss, not faking it. From the looks of it, Curly Hair probably only knew that he had eaten that target. In any case, Curly Hair's orders were to not let the target leave Whale Island. Directly eating the target was also a method. Curly Hair thought that he had accomplished some great merit and came running over to Fang Zhao to claim credit. As for how to eat it, no impression, no idea, no understanding. Fang Zhao took another deep breath. What exactly did I raise? Fang Zhao's reaction caused Curly Hair's smugness to cool down. He squatted there and watched Fang Zhao carefully, feeling uneasy. Fang Zhao continued to watch the dog through the safety glass in silence. The dog did not have a clear ability to distinguish things. In other words, it saw everything from a different angle than a human. In its eyes, strangers were no different from hamsters on the farm. It had many unknown abilities and was very smart. It was still growing, and its IQ was getting higher and higher. This time, it even knew to play dumb to avoid suspicion. Combining the details that Zhao Chao had recounted to Fang Zhao could roughly guess what had happened. Curly Hair had overheard the conversation between the two captains and thought that Fang Zhao's life was in danger. He had wanted to return midway, but Zhao Chao had held him back. Thus, in his excitement, Curly Hair had snatched away the leash and chased after the target himself, hoping to complete the mission and return as quickly as possible. After Fang Zhao had joined the inspection team, he had brought Curly Hair along for a few training sessions. The instructor had told Fang Zhao that on Whale Island, if they were discovered to be involved in terrorism, the island's inspectors and guards could immediately execute them. Being equipped with a gun gives you the right to deal with emergencies. Those who refuse to cooperate with the security check at the island's border could be killed on the spot, not to mention the incident involving the virus and the involvement of terrorist organizations. Every time the Whale Island conference was held, something would always happen. Many of those who came to participate in the conference were unaware of the turbulent waves beneath the calm surface. The price of peace and tranquility was not small. Although the deaths of those who were involved in terrorism were not to be regretted, this was a completely different matter. Eating people was not a small matter. This was no longer the period of destruction. The new era had its own rules. Fang Zhao was now aware of one thing. Curly Hair, this dog, could do anything when he was agitated. Fang Zhao was still in quarantine, so it wasn't convenient for him to speak too much to Curly Hair. It wasn't convenient for him to ask in detail either. Zhao Chao wouldn't give him too much time to talk to Curly Hair. Fang Zhao knocked on the safety glass in front of him and told Curly Hair, "From now on, apart from dog food and water, you are not allowed to eat anything else until my quarantine is over." Fang Zhao spoke briefly with Curly Hair for a bit before Zhao Chao came over to rush him. "How did it go?" Zhao Chao asked. "Just now, the dog doctor urged us again, saying that we can't ignore any small details that could threaten the life of the inspection dog." Fang Zhao suppressed all kinds of doubts in his heart and said, "Captain, can you let the dog doctor come here directly for an examination?" Curly Hair was too special. Fang Zhao had to keep an eye on him to prevent any unforeseen events. He was also pondering how to resolve any inexplicable findings later on. After receiving Zhao Chao's confirmation, Fang Zhao asked again, "Do I need to draw its blood too?" "Yes." Zhao Chao nodded. "Fang Zhao, it's afraid of injections." Curly Hair looked at Fang Zhao innocently. Fang Zhao's expression didn't change. Zhao Chao chuckled. "No wonder you have to watch from the side every time we draw its blood." I understand. Many dogs are like that. They always need their owners by their side to cooperate. Otherwise, they will cause a ruckus." Ignoring Curly Hair's whimpers, Fang Zhao said apologetically to Zhao Chao, "Sorry for the trouble." The dog doctor had been waiting for a long time. After receiving Zhao Chao's notification, he quickly came over with a toolbox and performed a physical examination on Curly Hair right in front of Fang Zhao. The blood draw was also very smooth. With Fang Zhao watching, there weren't any instances of the needle bending when it was inserted. Fang Zhao kept watching the dog doctor's movements and waited for the results. "It's not a big deal. It's just that the heavy metal content is a little high," the dog doctor said. "Maybe it's because he just ate something with a high metal content." This high metal content was naturally determined based on Curly Hair's previous examination results. Curly Hair had undergone a checkup when he had entered the inspection team, and there were records. Zhao Chao was furious when he received this result. "I just knew that someone must have poisoned him. Luckily, it's not serious. I will prescribe some medicine for him. Just give him some dog food when he is fed." After the dog doctor left, Zhao Chao discussed with Fang Zhao about the arrangements for Curly Hair. Now that Fang Zhao was in quarantine, Curly Hair couldn't stay here forever. Thus, Fang Zhao let Zhao Chao bring Curly Hair on patrol when he was out on a mission and let Curly Hair return to Fang Zhao after the mission. Because Curly Hair was going to be quarantined for a long period of time, Fang Zhao couldn't stay in this cramped quarantine room forever. There would be a specialized quarantine apartment. He would stay in the quarantine apartment with the other quarantined people for a month. They weren't criminals. Not only were they innocent, but they had also performed meritorious deeds. Their treatment would surely be better. The quarantine apartment also had a visitor's room. Curly Hair would stay in the visitor's room after his mission. Zhao Chao had many things to do every day and didn't have much free time to watch over Curly Hair outside of mission hours. However, bringing Curly Hair to the visitor's room after his mission wasn't a big deal. After discussing how to settle down Curly Hair, Zhao Chao left with Curly Hair. He had received a notice at the last minute that there were 2 storage units that needed to be inspected, so he could only let Curly Hair work overtime. Fortunately, there weren't many storage units to be inspected this time, so it wouldn't take too long. Before bringing Curly Hair to the storage units, Zhao Chao was worried that Curly Hair would starve, so he fed Curly Hair first. Fang Zhao had said that Curly Hair got hungry easily, and Zhao Chao knew that some dogs were like that. Furthermore, Curly Hair had performed a great service this time, so Zhao Chao specially went to the canteen to get a large pig trotter and brought it over after it was cooked. Normally, the dog food that the team's dogs ate was mixed with meat and vegetables. There was both dry and wet food. However, other than dog food, if a dog performed a meritorious deed, there would be some rewards. For example, if Thornhead performed a meritorious deed at a certain anti-smuggling war zone, someone would give him a large pig trotter. Thornhead loved to eat pig trotters. The other dogs in the team also ate pig trotters, so Zhao Chao felt that Curly Hair would like it too. However, when Zhao Chao brought the large pig trotter over, Curly Hair only squatted beside the bowl and watched. Zhao Chao let him eat, but Curly Hair stared at the bowl and whimpered, but he didn't eat. At first, Zhao Chao thought that Curly Hair didn't care about anyone other than his owner feeding him. But when he switched to dog food, Curly Hair started eating. Zhao Chao felt that he had found the reason. When he chatted with his teammates, he said, "I've long heard that some pet dogs only eat dog food. I didn't expect it to be true. I gave Curly Hair such a large pig trotter, but he actually didn't eat it. That's not right. A few days ago, I even saw Fang Zhao give him a small biscuit," an inspection team member said. "That's only a minority. Furthermore, when the owner feeds him, he will eat a little and not a lot." "Did you see Curly Hair eat a lot of biscuits?" Zhao Chao asked. "Not really. However, our team's dog food also includes pig trotters, right? Why doesn't Curly Hair eat pig trotters when he eats dog food? He doesn't even touch it?" Another team member raised his own doubts. "Perhaps it's because Curly Hair is a small-sized dog. His mouth is small and can't chew? Captain, you even specially picked a large one. He doesn't even know where to start. My aunt's pet dog is like this. He doesn't have the patience to bite things that are too big. He only bites a few times before losing interest. He will only eat it when it's cut into small pieces. Pet dogs are all pampered," that team member said. From their point of view, Curly Hair was normally raised as a pet dog. Although he had some experience herding sheep in Muzhou, that was only a small part of it. Most of the time, he had the status of a pet dog. Curly Hair's current status as an inspection dog was only temporary. When the Whale Island conference ended and the mission was completed, he would return and continue being a pet dog. Thus, everyone's expectations of him weren't that strict. Zhao Chao thought about it and agreed. Pet dogs were indeed willful. Curly Hair was hesitant to do an inspection and wasn't as obedient as military or police dogs. He was even afraid of injections and was a little timid. However, as long as he had the ability and could complete the mission, being a little willful was fine. Zhao Chao cut the pig trotter into small pieces and placed them into Curly Hair's dog bowl. Curly Hair still didn't touch it. Later, Zhao Chao mixed the pig trotter into the dog food, and this time, Curly Hair ate it. Thus, everyone in the inspection team quickly found out that Fang Zhao's dog only loved dog food. It wouldn't even touch anything bigger. Chapter 425. Everyone, go to sleep first. See you tomorrow afternoon. There is no update for Future Heavenly King tonight. Please wait for a moment. After the content has been updated, please refresh the page to receive the latest update. Chapter 426. After 2 days of observation in the laboratory building, Fang Zhao and the others were transferred to the quarantine apartment. Every day, someone will come to check on you to see if there are any abnormalities in your body. You can work here, and you can make an appointment for your 3 meals. If it is inconvenient to disturb you, you can leave a message in advance. Fang Zhao and the others had learned about the matters to take note of in advance, and the management of the isolation apartments was briefly mentioned once more. The manager of the isolated apartment looked at Feng Zhao. If you have any requests, feel free to let me know. A notebook and pen, Feng Zhao said. Military merits were military merits, but art was art. Even if he had to be locked up on Whale Island for a month, he still had to finish the rest of his graduation thesis. Otherwise, if he couldn't complete the mission that Old Master Mo had given him, he would have to postpone his graduation. That's all? The manager asked in surprise. That's all for now. Okay, someone will send it over in 10 minutes. The manager noted down Feng Zhao's request and went to the next room. 5 minutes later, a staff member arrived with the items Feng Zhao needed. It was a complete set of stationery, and they were all office supplies specially used on Whale Island. The notebook even had Whale Island's logo printed on it, and so did the pens. There were also rulers and other commonly used tools in the stationery bag. The room wasn't big, and the decor was similar to a standard hotel room. It just had a small gym and a separate guest room. When Curly Hair finished his missions, Zhao Chao would bring Curly Hair here. There were also simple electronic entertainment devices in the room, but there were network restrictions. The computer could only connect to the intranet. Looking at the audio and video resources inside, the entire Founding Era series was available. Previously, the guards who had been working overtime and had not been able to finish watching it could now watch as much as they wanted during their quarantine. During the conference, all communications with the outside world had to be reviewed. But once the Whale Island conference was over, there wouldn't be so many restrictions. However, communications would still be monitored. This had already been notified to the quarantined individuals. The Whale Island conference lasted a few more days than originally planned. After the conference was over, Feng Zhao contacted Nanfeng to bring Curly Hair back to the Huang Art dormitory. He would let Nanfeng visit Curly Hair every day and bring Curly Hair out for a walk. As for the remaining matters, Feng Zhao had already spoken to Curly Hair alone. It also knew where the dog food was stored, and there was a lot of stock in the dormitory. Feng Zhao had even specially instructed Curly Hair not to eat anything else in the dormitory, including rabbits. Otherwise, he would not be allowed to play games in the future. The day Curly Hair left the Whale Island region, Thornhead cried again. Of course, it wasn't because of camaraderie, nor was it because they were reluctant to part with each other. After the meeting, the inspection dog's performance ranking was also determined. Because Curly Hair had performed well during the conference and had made great contributions, his overall score was higher. Furthermore, Kay had beaten Thornhead by a slight margin. Thus, Thornhead, who had been pushed to third place, was so angry that he cried. 2 streaks of tears were rather obvious as he left the room. The instructor explained, "Cough, he's suffering from excessive internal heat again." Before leaving Whale Island, the other members of the inspection team came to the quarantine apartment to visit Feng Zhao. As the days of quarantine passed, the chances of Feng Zhao contracting the virus decreased. Thus, when everyone came to visit Feng Zhao, the atmosphere was rather relaxed. Once the matter on Whale Island was over, the personnel began to evacuate one after another, and the island's level of seclusion was lowered. It was more convenient for Feng Zhao to contact the outside world, but there were still some limitations. He contacted Emolang first. "I still have some matters to attend to here. I will only be able to return after half a month." Feng Zhao could not be too specific. There were still some matters that could not be divulged. Emolang didn't pursue the matter. He was an old man and understood some things. As long as he could confirm that Feng Zhao was safe and that Feng Zhao had a lot of time to spend on his thesis and works, the old master was very happy. "Just nice. You can consider this a change of location for your seclusion. No one will dare disturb you." Recently, there had been many topics regarding Feng Zhao online. There were also Huangzhou entertainment reporters who wanted to find traces of Feng Zhao. There were even some daring ones who went to Imolang's residence to keep watch. Feng Zhao couldn't go online, so he didn't know what was going on outside. Nanfeng said that it wasn't serious and told him not to worry, so Feng Zhao didn't pay attention to it. On the internet, many people were talking about Feng Zhao before the Whale Island conference. The various continents' New Year's Eve parties were very popular, and celebrities from various continents were making appearances. However, Feng Zhao was nowhere to be seen. Someone guessed, Feng Zhao was absent from Yinzhou's New Year's Eve party. Could it be that he also went to Whale Island for a conference? Fang Zhao's discovery of the Alcade was a meritorious deed. It makes sense that he obtained the right to attend. Some time ago, there had been rumors that a certain internet celebrity was going to Whale Island for a conference. Following that, there were rumors that a certain actor was also going to Whale Island. Some singer was suspected to have declined the invitation to their continent's New Year's Eve party because of his performance at the Whale Island conference. From the looks of it, Fang Zhao might really be going to Whale Island. However, since this involved the Whale Island conference, the internet didn't dare discuss it too much. Some information that was sent out would sink to the bottom of the ocean. Therefore, most people simply didn't know that Whale Island was also holding a conference. Very quickly, following the conclusion of the New Year's Eve parties, the Whale Island conference also came to an end a few days later. A portion of the celebrities and internet celebrities that had participated in the Whale Island conference started showing off their attendance certificates or photos with a landmark as the background. The conference was over. They could come out and brag. They could show off anything that wasn't confidential. However, there was still no news from Fang Zhao's side. He was absent from Fiery Bird's customer gratitude ceremony, Yinzhou's New Year's Eve party, and Huangzhou's New Year's Eve party. He also didn't appear at the Huangzhou Academy of Arts student gala. Where was he? Could he have been banned? Someone guessed. That shouldn't be the case. Let's not talk about the reason why Fang Zhao was banned. Even if he was, could it be so thorough? There isn't even a trace of him. Are all those Huangzhou entertainment reporters just for show? Why does no one believe that Fang Zhao is in seclusion? After all, he is still undergoing advanced studies. Great Master Mo Lang also said that Fang Zhao is in seclusion writing his thesis. You even believe that? Anything is possible, but he can't be in seclusion. Who can shut down all the New Year's Eve parties and Fiery Bird's important customer gratitude event? Who would have the guts? While all sorts of true and false news were flying around, there were people saying that Fang Zhao's endorsement had been withdrawn by Fiery Bird. Evidence? He didn't even participate in Fiery Bird's customer gratitude event. How can Fiery Bird tolerate this? According to reliable sources, Fiery Bird will replace at least 2 of their spokespeople this year. Fang Zhao will surely be one of the replacements. At first, only a small portion of people said this, but very quickly, more and more people believe this conjecture. Even the management companies of many first-rate celebrities from different continents started to take action, planning to snatch Fang Zhao's endorsement. Fiery Bird didn't care about the online guesses at first, but when they saw this bunch of people saying things as if they were the truth, they also became anxious. Who said anything about changing spokespeople? In any case, it definitely wasn't us. The rumors were quickly refuted by Fiery Bird officials. The gist of it was that there would be new products from the dating series in the new year, and that they would still be working with Fang Zhao. When the officials said this, some people were stunned. Since when did Fiery Bird have such a good temper? Fiery Bird tolerated Fang Zhao's absence from the annual customer gratitude event? There was another round of heated discussions online. There were also those who seized the opportunity to smear Fang Zhao, but most of them were small media outlets. Larger media outlets had their own channels to gather information. As long as they knew that Fang Zhao had appeared on Whale Island, they wouldn't dare speak carelessly. This was also the reason why Nanfeng had told Fang Zhao not to worry. Within the circles, no matter how much they slandered or boasted, it was just the buzz within the circles. Even the media dared to interfere. However, when it came to politics and military affairs, they didn't dare to casually say anything. Fang Zhao, who was unaware of the commotion online, was currently on a video call with great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fang. He had originally planned on celebrating with the 2 elders in Yinzhou this year, but he hadn't expected to be quarantined on Whale Island. To prevent the 2 elders from letting their imaginations run wild, Fang Zhao had to inform them. Great-grandfather Fang had also been paying attention to the news recently. Initially, he had believed that Fang Zhao had secluded himself to complete his advanced studies, but after seeing the analysis online, he had his suspicions. Now that he had received Fang Zhao's call, great-grandfather Fang was extremely happy. Little Zhao, I finally get to see you. Great-grandfather Feng's beaming face froze when he saw a certain logo on Feng Zhao's side. Great-grandmother Feng, who was squeezed to the side, had wanted to say something but changed the topic. Little Zhao, how have you been recently? Pretty good. I eat and sleep well. Feng Zhao even stood up to let the two elders take a good look at him to prove that he wasn't injured. Oh, that's good, that's good. Great-grandfather Feng's voice was somewhat shaky. When will you be back? Another 20 days or so. It's a pity that I can't go back to celebrate with you guys. It's fine. It's fine as long as you can come back safely, Great-grandfather Feng hurriedly said. As he said that, Great-grandfather Feng had a smile on his face again. He started complaining to Feng Zhao about the activities that the retirement facility had arranged for this year's festivities. Feng Zhao listened from the side and responded from time to time. Feng Zhao's call had a time limit. Looking at the countdown on the top right corner of the screen, Great-grandfather Feng didn't mention anyone else. He opened his mouth and said, Little Zhao, you have to be well. I'm fine now. I just ran on the treadmill for 2 hours, Feng Zhao replied. The call ended. The smile on Great-grandfather Feng's face completely disappeared, and tears flowed uncontrollably. During the video call, there was a small Whale Island logo on Feng Zhao's side. Thinking about the recent news online about Feng Zhao's absence from various gala events, and looking at Feng Zhao's current situation, Great-grandfather Feng could more or less guess what had happened. After all, he had served in the military for many years and knew many things. He knew all too well what kind of crisis lay beneath the calm surface of a conference of this level. What had Feng Zhao been transferred over for? What had he encountered? It seemed like he had been quarantined. Great-grandfather Feng's heart ached when he thought about what Feng Zhao might encounter. He couldn't bring himself to do anything. All the way until Memorial Day, the retirement facility was filled with cheers and laughter. People brought their families over to visit the elderly. Every year, these few days were the most lively and joyous. Descendants came over to visit the two elders. Great-grandfather Feng wore a smile on his face, but he wasn't in high spirits. At this time of the year, little kids compared red packets, older kids compared grades, and adults compared careers and families. Hearing someone mention Feng Zhao, Great-grandfather Feng's eyes became hot and he started crying. My little Zhao, Great-grandmother Feng coughed. What are you crying for during the holidays? Great-grandfather Feng held back his tears. Chapter 427. Everyone in the retirement facility knew that Feng Zhao hadn't returned to celebrate the holidays with the two elders. Seeing Great-grandfather Feng's listless appearance, many people guessed that Feng Zhao's absence had caused the old man to be in a bad mood. Feng Zhao didn't expect to completely hide this from great-grandfather and great-grandmother Feng. After all, the two elders were experienced people. Great-grandfather Feng pretended not to know, and Feng Zhao cooperated. There were many things that couldn't be said. It was fine as long as one understood. Saying it out loud would only add to one's worries. During his month of isolation on Whale Island, Feng Zhao had written his graduation thesis and revised his works in preparation for graduation. He had also read a few books recommended by Lang. After finishing each book, he had written an afterthought. With all sorts of disturbances online isolated, Feng Zhao had a very peaceful month. For him, this month hadn't been difficult. When Feng Zhao came out of the isolation apartment, he was even called over for a meal by the guards who had been released to celebrate his smooth passage. People who had watched Founding Era Yenzhou chapter even asked Feng Zhao for an autograph and a photo. You are very lucky, Unit 1 Nick of the laboratory building said when he saw Feng Zhao. Many people felt that Feng Zhao was really lucky to not have been infected after coming into contact with the virus source. Whale Island District was much emptier now, and it wasn't as strict as before. Tourist areas had also been opened up. Feng Zhao avoided the tourists and left Whale Island through another exit. Nanfeng and the other two were already waiting for him. Nanfeng had borrowed the car from a friend. After Feng Zhao boarded the car, Nanfeng explained the situation. It hadn't been convenient for Feng Zhao to speak too much during his stay on the island. Now that he was finally out, He had to give a detailed report to prove that he hadn't slacked off as an assistant. Boss, what plans do you have next? Fiery Bird's people have called me a few times to ask about your plans, Nanfeng said, mainly for the completion of the advanced course. Is Fiery Bird's new product coming out? Fang Zhao asked. Yes. They say it's to commemorate the discovery of the Alcade. The design has some Alcade characteristics and is tentatively named the Dieting Ada series. Fiery Bird has already released the news, and many people know about it. Of course, the collaboration with Fiery Bird would continue. Since Fiery Bird had expressed their sincerity, Fang Zhao had no reason to reject them. He contacted the relevant person in charge of Fiery Bird and discussed the collaboration with the new product. The details would be discussed at a later date. When Fang Zhao's call with Fiery Bird ended, Nanfeng studied Fang Zhao's expression. Seeing that Fang Zhao did not appear unhappy, he took the opportunity to suggest, "Boss, shouldn't we buy a nanny van now?" Previously, he had used the company's car or rented it for certain events. Sometimes, you need to apply for a flying device. Putting aside the aircraft, he still had to buy a car, right? He had to use it on normal days. Nanfeng continued his analysis. Look, boss, now that your status has risen, you will surely rise even higher in the future. It's not like you want to compete with others in terms of extravagance or anything. You don't have to fight with newcomers for a car, right? Even if he didn't use the company's resources, it would be troublesome to rent a car at his own expense. Also, I've asked around. When you go to your tutor for a thesis or other academic problems, don't you also have to run around? Now that you are well known in Huangzhou, what if you get recognized when you go out and take public transportation? It's very troublesome, and you can't bring a dog. If you attend an event, you won't have a place to change and rest. Of course, these problems can be solved, but you also won't have a place to compose in peace. How much time will you waste running around? Don't you think so, boss? That's true. Fang Zhao nodded. He knew that Nanfeng already had an idea, so he asked, "Do you have a model in mind?" "Sigh, we don't have to be too unconventional. Being low-key and practical is the best. Let's buy the model that many celebrities usually use. I have a friend whose team specializes in modifying vehicles and flying devices. They have a permit, so it's legal. All right, I'll go take a look after I'm done with Fiery Bird." Fang Zhao made a trip back to Huangart first. His dormitory looked the same, just that the dog food was empty. Curly Hair rushed over and whined. Firstly, he was happy to see Fang Zhao return. Secondly, he wanted to remind Fang Zhao to buy dog food. Thirdly, Fang Zhao had said he would let him play a new game, but he hadn't fulfilled it yet. He had been waiting for a long time. Fang Zhao looked around the dormitory. The rabbit was still alive and well in the water tank. Fang Zhao ordered dog food online and contacted Muzhou Farm to send over another batch. On his first day back, Fang Zhao didn't leave campus. He downloaded a few new games for Curly Hair, discussed composing issues with a few professors, handed his thesis to a Molang, explained his graduation plan, and submitted his graduation application. Fang Zhao was the first person to submit a graduation application for this year's advanced course. To obtain a graduation certificate for the advanced course, one had to first apply. Only when the quantity and quality of the thesis met the requirements would the application be approved. The quantity and quality of Fang Zhao's thesis were already sufficient. This efficiency made the others in his batch feel pressured. After the application was approved, a thesis defense and a graduation concert would be arranged. However, these were all matters for June. The earliest thesis defense would be at the end of May. It was only February now, so it seemed like there was enough time. However, a graduation concert would also take up a lot of effort. Especially with Fang Zhao's current popularity and reputation, the Academy's requirements would only be stricter. The next day, the Academy didn't have any classes. Fang Zhao arranged a time with the relevant person in charge of Fiery Bird to discuss a new endorsement deal. Fang Zhao would be the spokesperson for this year's new product, the Dieting Ada series. Other than that, Fiery Bird hoped that Fang Zhao could advertise during his graduation concert. Huangart's advanced course's graduation concert venue had an advertising area, but after all, it focused on art. The advertising area wasn't large and was light. If one didn't look closely, one might not be able to see it. However, Feng Zhao was different. Now, many people had their eyes on Feng Zhao's graduation concert. Even if it was just a small decorative billboard, Fiery Bird was willing to invest once. Fiery Bird's people also had their own ideas. Even if they didn't believe in Feng Zhao's musical standards, they should at least believe in Imo Lang, right? Behind Feng Zhao stood Imo Lang and a bunch of other great masters. Of course, Feng Zhao was still a very talented person. He wasn't someone who relied on his management company to build up his image. Furthermore, management companies didn't have that ability. Was the 12 Tones Advanced course something one could enter just because they wanted to? Then, think about the frightening faculty of the 12 Tones Advanced course. On the way to school, there were many great masters guiding you. The kind of genuine master-level guidance that didn't contain any embellishments. As long as you wanted to learn and improve, you could learn more in a year than most people could in 3 years. However, the 12 Tones Advanced course was difficult to enter, and it was also difficult to leave. You had to pass an exam to enter, and you had to rely on your thesis and work to successfully graduate. There was no point in staying there. Master-level instructors could only tutor students for a year. Once the one-year period was over, except for some students who had cooperative projects, those who couldn't successfully graduate after the deadline would lose their previous treatment. After discussing the collaboration with Fiery Bird, Feng Zhao returned to his dormitory, put away his documents, and brought Curly Hair to the car modification club that Nanfeng had recommended. Nanfeng had already bought a car. Just as he had said, the car didn't look special. In any filming set, 8 out of 10 cars used by actors would be this model. Usually, one would see quite a few on the road. These cars were also used to transport goods and move houses. At this moment, Nanfeng's friend was confirming the modifications requirements with Nanfeng. The engine, chassis, and other things will all be modified according to your requirements. Take a look at the additional items. These have not been confirmed yet. Also, you said you would buy the sound system yourself, but you have to let us know what type you are buying. If you haven't bought one yet, let us know the model number first. We have to carry out the technical design and see how we can modify it. Sound system? Fiery Bird's Diding Z series model, Nanfeng said. This was something he had discussed with Feng Zhao beforehand. If they bought it from Fiery Bird, they could get the first set at half price. There would also be free gifts. This was the benefit of being a spokesperson. When the Diding Z series sound system had first been released, some people had said that Feng Zhao didn't use it himself. What right did he have to be the spokesperson? Now, it could finally be put to use. The person in charge of taking notes glanced at Nanfeng. Fiery Bird's Diding Z series sound system wasn't cheap. The money spent on the sound system alone could buy many cars of this model. Their club rarely saw people installing this grade of sound system in ordinary cars. Nanfeng's friend knew the inside story and wasn't surprised. He continued asking, "What about the bulletproof grade?" "As long as you can modify it to the highest grade," Nanfeng replied. "What did your boss do to require such a high grade of bulletproof?" the friend asked with a laugh. "Sigh. The worries of a celebrity," Nanfeng replied jokingly. Of course, he couldn't say the truth. As they were speaking, a luxurious car drove in from outside. A young man whose hair was dyed granny gray got out of the car with a distressed expression. Flattened the dents on the car. The club staff looked over and saw that the exterior of the flashy, luxurious car had many small dents, probably caused by something hard. A child wearing a bear print got out of the back seat and played with a small black ball in his hand. He said nonchalantly, "You were the one who said I could play with it as I pleased. You said your car was hard enough." Danke Assis, the son of the Interplanetary Fund's chairman, was currently regretting it. When he had seen that little brat play with the ball, he had thought it was just a soft elastic ball. Who knew that it would be a dent? That was his beloved car. It was disfigured just like that. At this moment, another car drove over. It didn't approach but stopped in the parking lot. The car door opened, and Curly Hair jumped out of the car. He shook his fur and looked around curiously. Little Bear's arrogance that had just risen instantly vanished. He jumped behind Danke and began to observe carefully. Danky laughed maniacally in his heart when he saw this. This little kid usually seems fearless. Turns out he's afraid of dogs. No matter how happy he felt, Danky still put on a protective expression. Aha, don't be afraid, don't be afraid. What's there to be afraid of? This dog doesn't eat people. Feng Zhao, who had just gotten out of the car, heard this. When he saw who it was, Danky's smile gradually froze. He recalled that his father had told him to stay far away from Feng Zhao when taking care of little brats. Chapter 428. Danky was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Wasn't Feng Zhao supposed to be in seclusion? He had disappeared for so long without any news. How did he suddenly appear here? Huangzhou entertainment reporters are really a bunch of good-for-nothings. Danky had asked a few entertainment reporters he kept in touch with before coming out. Only after confirming that Feng Zhao hadn't appeared had he boldly brought Little Bear around. What should he do now? After alighting, Feng Zhao's gaze swept past Danky and stopped on Little Bear. This kid is a little strange. Little Bear revealed a bashful smile when he sensed Feng Zhao's gaze. His eyes were filled with excitement and agitation as though he was about to jump over. But when he saw curly hair, he retracted his leg. At the same time, Feng Zhao heard a sound. It was a signal from the arcade that he had heard back on Planet Boo. Feng Zhao's gaze turned to one of astonishment. The signal appeared for a short while before stopping. This time, it wasn't a cry for help. It was more like a probe. After confirming the answer, it stopped. Little Bear was even more excited. But when he saw curly hair crouching at Feng Zhao's feet, he shrunk back. Feng Zhao passed the leash to Zuiyu and got him to lead curly hair to one side. Zuiyu tugged on the leash, but it didn't budge. Feng Zhao bent over and stroked curly hair's head. He patted him twice and indicated for him to wait with Zuiyu. Only then did curly hair leave reluctantly. The moment curly hair left, Little Bear, who had been hiding behind Danky, skipped over to Feng Zhao. Hello, I'm Little Bear. Hello, I'm Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao found a chair and handed it over. I know you. I finished watching your performance of Founding Era, and I also watched the concert. I watched the game videos and variety shows. Little Bear sat on the chair that Feng Zhao had handed over and swung his legs happily. Danky, who had been forgotten. At this moment, Little Bear was already possessed by a brain-dead fan. He took out all the videos and concerts of Feng Zhao that he had seen and bragged about them. Feng Zhao would reply to Little Bear from time to time as he analyzed this. Person? No, it wasn't a real person. Although his body temperature, pulse, breathing, and heartbeat were no different from a real person, it was still different. Feng Zhao could hear the difference. It looked like a real person, but it was actually a mechanical body. However, it really resembled a real person, especially those subtle changes in emotion. If not for Feng Zhao's excellent hearing, he really wouldn't have been able to immediately distinguish it. At most, he would have felt that it was a little strange. This was the person the Interplanetary Fund took away from the arcade? Back then, they only knew that the Interplanetary Fund had taken away some confidential core technology or black boxes from the arcade. Even Feng Zhao had never imagined that such a person would exist. As Feng Zhao pondered what kind of attitude he should adopt towards this special little, while Danky was calculating the size of the shadow in his heart, Little Bear was still expressing his excitement. Founding Era is so well acted. I love the Yinzhou chapter the most. The soundtrack was also very good. I cried a few times while watching it. Afterward, I cried so much that I ran out of water. I felt terrible. Feng Zhao paused. Drink more water? You've cried so much that you've run out of water. You need to replenish your water, right? That's right. Little Bear had a look of worship. Danky, child, your IQ has dropped. How could he believe such nonsense? Drink more water if you can't cry? Do you think you can cry just by drinking water? Shouldn't you be expressing your emotions? However, Little Bear continued, next time, I will definitely bring a few more bottles of water. Are you all right if you cry too much? Fang Zhao asked. It's all right. This is also a way for me to enrich my emotions. Even so, you still have to control it within a reasonable range. You can't possibly carry a few bottles of water everywhere you go, Fang Zhao said. Of course, I have a reserve. I even specially drink water before heading out. I'm not afraid. Little Bear was very pleased. Danky, who had been forgotten, had a look of despair on his face. Ah, I can't bear to listen to this retarded conversation. Crazy. However, Little Bear was completely oblivious to Danky's frustration and continued speaking to Fang Zhao. I heard that there will be a graduation concert when you graduate from advanced studies. I also want to go and listen to it, but I don't know if I will have the time. Homework is so much and tiring, but I will overcome this difficulty. Danky, who was listening at the side, continue your bullshit. Yesterday, Danky had seen Little Bear watching television and had asked, have you finished your homework? I heard that you have quite a lot of homework every day. However, he had received a disdainful piece of cake from Little Bear. And now? Have you eaten all the words I said yesterday? Not only had Little Bear expressed his feelings as a little fan, he had also shared his little pet with Fang Zhao. Here, this is Little Rich's, my pet. You should have seen it before. It can be rubbed like this, patted like this, and pulled like this. Little Bear had shown Fang Zhao the many ways Little Rich's could be used. Danky, I fucking brought you out to play for so long, and you still haven't let me touch the black sphere. What do you mean Little Rich's can't be casually touched by others? Today is the first time you see Fang Zhao, yet you take the initiative to hand over your Little Rich's to him? Our friendship after interacting for so long can't compare to Fang Zhao, whom we have only met once. Are you even human to treat me so differently and be so heartless? Danky felt that he couldn't stay here any longer. After his beloved car was repaired, he pulled Little Bear away. In the car, Danky was still feeling indignant and criticizing Little Bear for forgetting his playmate after meeting his idol. Do you like Fang Zhao that much? Danky didn't understand. He is a good person, Little Bear said. How long have you known him? How do you know he is a good person? Many people say one thing to his face and another behind his back. Don't look at how amazing Fang Zhao is on the internet. Who knows what he is like in private? He is especially amazing, Little Bear added. He is amazing, but this has nothing to do with whether he is a good person or not. Danky wanted to say something, but he swallowed his words when he saw Little Bear's eyes sparkle when he talked about Fang Zhao. Forget it. There was no need to discuss how bad their idol was with die-hard fans. That would be slapping their own faces. Little Bear rubbed Little Rich's, who had curled up into a ball, and said, if I really have to describe it, it should be similar to a nestling complex. When the Alcade had been buried in Planet Boo's desert, it had been dormant for a long time and its future was uncertain. It was Fang Zhao who had received his distress signal, allowing the Alcade to see the light of day once again and allowing him to return. Fang Zhao could be considered his savior. Although Little Bear had been in a dormant state, everything that had happened around him had been recorded. Every living creature and every machine had been converted into a signal. And Fang Zhao was the first person to receive Little Bear's distress signal and rescue the Alcade after so many years of dormancy. As for Curly Hair, Little Bear had sensed the signal of a natural enemy from Curly Hair. They couldn't get close. Without Fang Zhao, I wouldn't be where I am now. Little Bear sighed. However, when these words entered Danky's ears, holy shit, that's a lot of information. Danky's brain started to uncontrollably think about all sorts of melodramatic feuds between wealthy families that he had seen on television. However, when he wanted to continue asking, Little Bear replied, I am still a child. I don't understand. Danky scoffed. Little brat, you are rather shrewd at times like this. Since he couldn't get any more information out of Little Bear, Danky didn't feel conflicted. He was only asking about gossip that involved star conglomerates higher-ups. He didn't really want to get involved. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. I will bring you for a race. Of course, Danky definitely wouldn't really go for a race. He wouldn't dare bring Little Bear for a race. His father and the higher-ups would skin him alive. The race he was talking about was the kind of holographic games that could be found in racing arcades. Since he couldn't drive a real car, he wasn't afraid of driving a virtual one. When they arrived at the arcades, Danky chose a game room and flipped his bangs. "Come and sit in the back. Brother will bring you for a ride. I will let you see the driving skills of Huangzhou's racing god." Although it was just a game, the visual and tactile aspects were rather realistic. If he chose the convertible mode, he could even feel the strong wind. After choosing the racetrack and the car model, Danky started racing. After a small round, Danky asked Little Bear proudly, "Isn't it exciting? Isn't it awesome? Are you happy?" Little Bear was expressionless as he replied coldly, "Oh, TSK, you didn't think much of it. All right, I will show you my true skills." Danky, who was holding back his anger, got serious in the second round. He had forgotten that Little Bear was still in the car when he started racing. By the time he came back to his senses, even if it was just a game, he would definitely be a frightened child. He turned his head and saw Little Bear looking at him as though he was an idiot. "This isn't how you race," Little Bear said. "Hey, you're lecturing me? Then how do you think I should race?" Danky was displeased. "Move to the side." Little Bear switched seats with Danky and let him sit in the back while he sat in the driver's seat. 5 minutes later, Danky dashed to the sink and vomited. This was the first time the self-proclaimed racing god of Huangzhou felt carsick. Danky had suffered a huge blow. Although the title of Huangzhou's racing god was a self-conferred title and was somewhat boastful, he really felt that his driving skills were passable. Even in racing games, he would be a king. But today, he had been slapped in the face by a brat. Danky came back after gargling and looked embarrassed. After holding it in for a while, he said, "A game is a game. Driving a real car is different." Little Bear was unhappy with this. "I can drive too. That will have to wait until you are of age and get your driver's license." "I can drive." All right, you can drive," Danky said perfunctorily. "I can not only drive, I can also pilot a spaceship." Yes. You are awesome," Danky continued perfunctorily, but he was sneering in his heart. This lousy child just loves to brag. "Why don't you say that you have driven an arcade before?" Danky, who had calmed down, didn't stay in the game hall any longer and brought Little Bear back. "Actually, I am pretty good at games. It's just that I don't play many racing games these days." "I am rusty," Danky said. "Given your standard, wouldn't you still be abused to tears in other games?" Little Bear said disdainfully, "Sigh, I really haven't. Even if I encounter something I can't beat, I will call my brothers along. One person's strength is always insignificant." Little Bear seemed pensive. Then, he patted Danky's shoulder. "Dandan, thank you for reminding me. What did I remind you of?" Danky suddenly had a bad premonition. "I have a new idea." "You better not have any ideas." "I am flustered." Danky didn't dare underestimate this brat's destructive power. "You reminded me." "No, I didn't." Danky was on the verge of tears. He had already been apprehensive when he brought this fat kid out today. He didn't know what his father would say when he got back. Now, Little Bear's sudden words nearly made him jump in fright. Who knew what this brat would do? If he really caused any trouble, wouldn't he be the scapegoat? Little Bear didn't hear Danky's inner thoughts. He didn't go to Danky's house. Instead, he returned to his own workplace. In the engineering building of a certain interplanetary fund experimental base, the employees were astonished to see Little Bear. This child would usually go out and have fun whenever he had the time. He never worked overtime. It should be Little Bear's vacation time now, but he actually didn't go out and have fun. This was too rare. Little Bear ignored the gazes of the others and walked into his own workshop. He felt that Danky was right. He was still too weak. Little Riches wasn't of much use. He still needed helpers. If he didn't have helpers, then he would create helpers. The Interplanetary Fund personnel didn't allow him to create any more advanced intelligent items. Thus, Little Bear had always felt that there was no need to create a mentally handicapped pet. Little Riches was actually considered an advanced intelligent item in the eyes of the Interplanetary Fund personnel. This made Little Bear depressed. Since when did the standard for intelligence become so low? In his opinion, without that bit of intelligence, what was left was a rigid and inflexible stupidity. But no matter what, if he wanted to create something now, he could only create something with a lower level of intelligence than Little Riches. After a few long sighs, Little Bear finally decided to create two mentally handicapped mechanical pets. He had even thought of names. One would be called Gooden, and the other would be called Gosheng. Chapter 429. While Little Bear was creating his new pet, Danky had been reprimanded by his father. When Interplanetary Fund Chairman Mesh Assis heard that Little Bear had met with Feng Zhao today and had spoken for a long time, he was so scared that his face turned pale. When Danky recounted the conversation between Little Bear and Feng Zhao, Chairman Mesh Assis no longer harbored any hope in his heart. He knew that Feng Zhao had already discovered that something was wrong with Little Bear. Mesh Assis ignored the frightened Danky and returned to his own office to make a call to inform his superiors. The person on the other end of the line was silent for a while before replying. Got it? He didn't say how he was going to pursue the matter, but the chairman relaxed a little. From the looks of it, there wasn't much of a problem for the time being. However, he still had to be reprimanded. Thus, Danky was locked up and reprimanded by his father for an hour. However, what kind of person was Danky? He obediently received the scolding in front of his father, but when he returned home, he vented his grievances by digging up the contact numbers of those Huangzhou entertainment reporters and hurling a torrent of insults at them. The Huangzhou entertainment reporters who were scolded felt even more wronged. They really hadn't received any news. When they heard that Danky was going to blacklist them, the few of them became anxious. Danky's father was the Interplanetary Fund's chairman. He was considered a high-ranking aristocrat in Huangzhou. From time to time, they would still be able to pry out some useful information from him. In order to protect Danky, they had expended a lot of effort. Otherwise, Danky wouldn't have bothered with them. They weren't resigned to being blacklisted just like that. All they wanted was Feng Zhao's whereabouts. Wouldn't it be fine if they searched for him? Knowing that their abilities were limited, the few entertainment reporters contacted their partners in other continents. In Yinzhou, Wang Tai was flipping through his bank account, thinking about what to invest the money in. Wang Tai was rather astonished when he received a call from a Huangzhou partner. Wang Tai was in a good mood after flipping through his bank account. When he picked up the call, he said in a relaxed tone, "Which celebrity news are you digging up this time?" "Feng Zhao," the other party replied. "No way." Wang Tai didn't wait for the other party to continue and hung up. Feng Zhao hadn't been present at Yinzhou's New Year celebration. There hadn't been any definite news about Feng Zhao either. Many people had asked Wang Tai online, but Wang Tai had played dead. It wasn't just because he had suffered at Feng Zhao's hands in the past, but also because he had learned from certain channels that Feng Zhao was on Whale Island. At that time, he didn't even dare to dig for information. Now, he was even more unwilling to take on such a disadvantageous matter. But Wang Tai touched his chin. People from Huangzhou had contacted him. Could it be that Feng Zhao was coming to Yinzhou? Wang Tai decided not to go out for a week. It was just as Wang Tai had guessed. Feng Zhao had applied for 2 days of leave to return to Yinzhou to handle some matters. After discussing some matters at the Fiery Bird branch in Yinzhou, he returned to Silver Wing Media to handle some matters. Feng Zhao had signed a contract with Silver Wing Media as a composer. Going to Huang Art for advanced studies and graduation would be discussed with the company. Feng Zhao's return this time was very low-key. Only a small number of people at Silver Wing knew that Feng Zhao had arrived at the company today. After settling company matters and paying a visit to a few Yinzhou industry veterans, Feng Zhao returned to his home in Yinzhou's Qi and City when it was already late. Feng Zhao had mixed feelings as he looked at the sign outside his door that said, "Ferocious beasts inside. Do not enter unless invited." He felt that the warning effect of the sign was not enough. It looked like a joke. Curly hair didn't just bite people. When he got agitated, he could swallow people whole. However, he only had 2 days of leave. He wouldn't stay home for long. Tomorrow, he would go to Yinbei City to visit his 2 elders and return to Huangzhou the day after. He could change the sign in the future. Curly Hair wasn't staying at home, so it should be fine. Speaking of curly hair, Fang Zhao thought of Little Bear. Little Bear was very afraid of Curly Hair. Why? Was he afraid of dogs or Curly Hair's mysterious abilities? Fang Zhao couldn't find an answer for now. After pondering for a while, Fang Zhao contacted the 2 elders in Yinbei City. Since he hadn't been able to return for Memorial Day, he definitely had to pay them a visit during this short break. Yinbei City Retirement Facility. Great-grandfather Fang twirled a walnut in one hand and held a chess piece in the other. He was playing chess with the other elders in the retirement facility. Great-grandfather Fang frowned when his communications device rang. Seeing that it was his wife, he grumbled, "Why are you calling at this time? You're disrupting my train of thought." Although he was grumbling, he answered the call quickly. He knew that his wife calling at this time would definitely have something important to say. "Hello, what's up? I'm playing chess." "What? Little Zhao is calling?" Great-grandfather Fang jumped up from his wooden chair in shock, his eyes filled with joy. The other party said something else, and great-grandfather Fang nodded his head. Yes, let's head over. Tell little Zhao not to come over. He's tired too." After the call, great-grandfather Fang wasn't in the mood to play chess anymore. He tossed the chess piece aside. "I'm not playing anymore. My family's little Zhao returned to Yinzhou today. He said he wanted to visit us 2 elders, but we rejected him. This child has too many things to do, and his vacation is short. It's too troublesome for him to run around. We'll head directly to Qi and City tomorrow. The weather has been pretty good recently. It's good to travel more." Great-grandfather Fang's spirits were lifted when he learned that Fang Zhao had returned to Yinzhou. How could he still be in the mood to fool around with the bunch of old fogies in the retirement facility? How could playing chess be more important than seeing his grandson? Furthermore, it was his favorite great-grandson. He had waited for a long time, and Fang Zhao had finally returned. That child's studies are too heavy. He seemed to have lost weight during the video call. I have to go over and take a good look at him. Great-grandfather Fang had actually discussed this with great-grandmother Fang when Fang Zhao had been locked up in quarantine on Whale Island. This child Fang Zhao's luck wasn't good. It was a new year, and they had to bring him away from his bad luck. And in the hearts of the 2 elders, the holy land for getting rid of bad luck, and making wishes for blessings was Qi and City's Yinzhou Cemetery for martyrs. Thus, the next day, Fang Zhao was helplessly brought by the 2 elders to Yinzhou Cemetery for martyrs to pray for blessings. The 2 elders had just arrived in Qi and City and didn't go anywhere. After a simple meal, they dragged Fang Zhao into the cemetery. Memorial Day had already passed, and the buzz generated by Founding Era had died down considerably. However, during this year's Memorial Day, there were still many people coming to the cemetery to pay their respects. Every now and then, there would be groups of people coming over to pay their respects. Now that it was school hours, the cemetery looked a little more deserted. After praying for a fortune pouch, great-grandfather Fang brought Fang Zhao to the cemetery area to pay his respects. "You didn't make it to Memorial Day. Now that you are back, you have to make up for it," great-grandfather Fang said as he pulled Fang Zhao along. "Also, your great-grandmother and I both feel that your luck is a little bad. Look at you. You were locked up on your way to school." Great-grandfather Fang lowered his voice as they entered the core cemetery area. Making a racket here would be disrespectful to the martyrs. The 2 elders looked at the tombstones with reverence and worship. They bowed solemnly and seriously. After paying their respects, great-grandfather Fang pulled Fang Zhao to the grave of Martyr Fang Zhao. Hurry. Come over and pay your respects. Be sincere. Fang Zhao." Sighing in his heart, Fang Zhao solemnly paid his respects to his own tombstone. "Pay your respects a few more times. The more the better," great-grandfather Fang urged in a low voice. "There's no need, right?" Fang Zhao replied. "What do you know? I heard from an old friend in Muzhou that a kid from the Su family in Muzhou kowtowed so many times to this person that his head turned red. When he went back, his luck changed. Great-grandfather Fong had originally wanted Fong Zhao to kowtow a few times like the kid from Muzhou, but his heart ached for Fong Zhao. Seeing Fong Zhao's conflicted expression, great-grandfather Fong assumed that Fong Zhao couldn't put down his pride and didn't press the issue. Be sincere, great-grandfather Fong said. This way, this old man can bless and protect you. Fong Zhao. The two old men stood there and stared. Fong Zhao still paid his respects many times until great-grandfather Fong was satisfied. When Fong Zhao walked to the side, great-grandfather Fong carefully approached the tombstone of Martyr Fong Zhao. As if whispering a secret, he whispered to the tombstone, "Great-grandfather, I'm little Fong. I'm here again. The one beside me is my family's little Zhao. I told you before that he is an admirer of yours. How well he acted as UN, founding era. The internet was full of praise, and he even won an award. Great-grandfather, you must bless my family's little Zhao. This child loves music and has a talent for composing. He can even treat illnesses. Of course, in his pursuit of art, he has not forgotten to contribute to society. He is a diligent person. Many people say that I am biased, but how can I not be biased? Anyone else would be biased. If great-grandfather Fong was here, you would surely have the same thoughts, right?" Standing to the side, Fong Zhao. When great-grandfather Fong finally finished speaking, the three of them came out of the core cemetery area. Great-grandfather Fong explained to Fong Zhao, "I know that there are no ghosts in this world. People are gone when they die. But little Zhao, you have to remember that what is buried here is faith. It is faith. It is a very mystical thing, so mystical that it can change your fate in an instant." Great-grandfather Fong pulled Fong Zhao in the direction of the cemetery and told Fong Zhao about the times when he and great-grandmother Fong had served in the military. They had not experienced the cruelty of the period of destruction, but in their own era, they had their own thrilling stories. As they left the cemetery, great-grandfather Fong glanced back in the direction of the tombstone and muttered, "So many people come to pay their respects every day. I wonder if the old man heard what I said." Fong Zhao. Sigh. 1 second to remember love, M. Chapter 430. After returning home from the cemetery, great-grandfather Fong and great-grandmother Fong took a short break before going to visit old friends. There were still quite a few old friends in Qian City. It was rare for them to visit, so they decided to catch up. Great-grandfather Fong actually wanted to spend more time with Fong Zhao, but his heart ached for Fong Zhao, and he didn't want to disturb him. He knew that Fong Zhao would have to split his attention to take care of them if the two elders stayed. Great-grandfather Fong didn't want to be a burden to Fong Zhao. Furthermore, Fong Zhao would be leaving Yenzhou for Huangzhou tomorrow morning. He needed to rest more. Great-grandfather Fong would let Fong Zhao stay in the Yanbei retirement facility for a period of time after the advanced course was completed. After taking a few more photos, great-grandfather Fong left in satisfaction. He had taken quite a few photos this time and could flaunt them on his friend's circle. Fong Zhao got Yin Biao to drive the two elders out. Fong Zhao had given Zui Yu and Yin Biao a break during the quarantine period on Whale Island. They had spent Memorial Day at home, so they didn't need any extra time off now that they were back in Yenzhou. Zui Yu was packing up. "Boss, should I place these gaming helmets on the shelf, or?" Zui Yu looked at Fong Zhao with a troubled expression. Of the 3 new gaming helmets, one had been given to Fong Zhao when he had gone to Fiery Bird's Yenzhou branch yesterday. It was a belated New Year's gift and was a global limited edition. The second was a gift from Silver Wing Media's professional gaming team. It was a spoil of war from last year's Challenger League. There were only 12 worldwide, and only one in Yenzhou. It had been given to Fong Zhao and had been signed by everyone in the team. It was also a token of their appreciation. The third gaming helmet had been a crowdfunding gift from Fong Zhao's gaming fans. It had been sent directly to Silver Wing, and Fong Zhao had received it when he had gone to the company. Along with the helmet was a handwritten letter. On it was Fong Zhao's wish to return to the gaming arena. More than 100 people had signed it. This was just the paper version. The email version already had more than 10,000 signatories and was still increasing. Curly Hair had his eyes on these 3 helmets. Now, Curly Hair wanted to keep the helmets in his little cabinet. This puts Yu in a difficult position. Curly Hair's cabinet wasn't big, and it wasn't a place for collectibles. Furthermore, it was a commemorative edition gaming helmet, so Yu didn't let Curly Hair keep it. Now, Curly Hair was baring his teeth at him. Feng Zhao glanced at the situation and said, "Put it on the shelf." After saying that, he gave Curly Hair a warning look. Curly Hair whimpered softly. "That's right. These valuables can be placed on the shelf to display them and also to prevent theft." The personal terminal will be able to display which item has been removed from the display shelf. Zhuyu pointed at the electronic screen on the display rack, which showed the number of exhibits and the temperature and humidity of individual exhibition holes. After carefully placing the 3 gaming helmets on the shelf, Zhuyu turned his head and saw Curly Hair squatting at the side, looking up at the shelf. This dog. Why is it looking at the gaming helmet with eyes that are even brighter than when it's looking at a bone? Is staring at these things filling my stomach or something? Zhuyu scratched his head in confusion. Could it be that dogs had a hobby of collecting? However, Zhuyu didn't know that in Curly Hair's heart, these 3 gaming helmets were his. Feng Zhao rarely played games at home. In any case, Feng Zhao loved music the most and didn't really like gaming. This meant that it belonged to Curly Hair. After Zhuyu left, Curly Hair retracted his gaze from the shelf and wagged his tail to play games. He had brought one of the gaming helmets back home to Huangart and had a spare. That night, Curly Hair played games the entire night. Feng Zhao had given him a new game. In the morning, Curly Hair was pulled back by his ear by Feng Zhao. Otherwise, this dog wouldn't have continued playing without rest. There were still classes and school assignments at Huangart, so Feng Zhao left Yinzhou for Huangzhou Institute of Art after breakfast. After leaving, Feng Zhao added some feed to the water tank feeder and knocked on the side of the tank. "Take good care of the house." Inside the water tank, the 2 ears of that soft rabbit swayed along with the weak flow of the water. On the night that Feng Zhao left, 2 figures appeared at Feng Zhao's doorstep. One of them fiddled with some equipment and gestured. The door was unlocked. However, the 2 didn't enter immediately. Instead, they glanced at the sign hanging at the door. "Ferocious beasts inside. No entry unless invited?" The 2 of them looked at each other and smiled silently. Then, they quickly entered the room. After confirming that the house's surveillance cameras and alarms had been dealt with, the 2 unloaded their equipment. "Easy peasy," the skinny but nimble person said disdainfully. "It's an old building, and this is the top floor. It won't be easy to notice." The shorter person surveyed the surroundings vigilantly. Feng Zhao had bought Xuejing's house back then. Perhaps when Xuejing had bought a house here a few years ago, this building had been one of the best in the area, but after so many years, it had become an old building. Some of the facilities were no longer up to date, and there were many loopholes. For certain professionals, it really wasn't difficult. "So Feng Zhao lives here? This doesn't seem to match his status." The other person took out a miniature camera and started taking pictures of the house. Now, some of the old buildings in the area had already been demolished and rebuilt. They were taller and more beautiful. In comparison, the building Feng Zhao lived in was really lacking. If it had been a second-rate or third-rate celebrity living here, it would have been fine, but with Feng Zhao's current popularity and status, it didn't seem suitable. It's a good thing he lives here. Otherwise, the difficulty of our mission would increase by a few levels. All right, let's start the mission. You take your pictures, I'll search mine. What's there to panic about? Anyway, Feng Zhao has already gone to Huangzhou. No one will disturb us. Even if we sleep here for a night, no one will know. One was a professional thief, the other an unscrupulous entertainment reporter. In their respective circles, they were very famous. Infamy was still fame. The 2 of them had worked together many times. This time, they had accepted a mission from their employer, sneaking into Feng Zhao's house at night and digging up Feng Zhao's secrets. If they could unearth some world-shaking news, that would be even better. We still have to be a little more cautious. There might be some hidden mechanisms in the house. Are you talking about ferocious beasts? The skinny guy laughed. The other person recalled the warning sign hanging on the door and couldn't help but laugh. This Feng Zhao guy is really humorous. Don't say. That dog of his really bites. It's very professional. When Muzhou people talk about dogs, how proud are they? But even if they aren't convinced, they still have to admit that the dog is impressive. Feng Zhao loves that dog so much that he brings it with him everywhere he goes. Nonsense. If it were me, I would bring it too. It's 200 million. After the two of them laughed, they borrowed the light from their lighting tools to get a rough look at the interior of the house. Didn't they say that Feng Zhao was very rich? This house doesn't look like much. It wasn't extravagant or exaggerated. It looked a little too simple. They had visited the mansions of many rich and powerful people. For someone of Feng Zhao's status, the decorations in his house could already be considered shabby. This is what's scary. We can't tell what kind of person Feng Zhao is, nor can we tell what his preferences are. Feng Zhao is just a rather talented celebrity. Shouldn't he be called an artist now? Why would such a young artist be targeted? The people who had hired them weren't good people. How had Feng Zhao, who was in the art circles, attracted the attention of those people? Who was he blocking? Who cares? They just needed to get paid to work. Feng Zhao had already brought the dog away, so they didn't have to worry about encountering it. It wasn't obvious at first, but now that I take a closer look, there are quite a few valuable things in his house. The professional thief's eyes lit up. His gaze swept over everything from the autographed custom-made guitar, the display shelf with several limited edition gaming helmets, the water tank, and so on. These will all be brought away later. This is the hybrid sea slug that's worth $80 million. The world's most expensive pet sea slug. Half of its body has extraterrestrial genes. It is said that it can be used as a light if you knock on it. The person who had been taking pictures moved closer to the water tank and knocked on it. There was no reaction. It's not lighting up? Could it be that there's something wrong with the operation? I remember watching Feng Zhao's live broadcast in the past. That's how he knocked. Maybe it's a publicity stunt. It's to inflate the value of this sea slug. After knocking for a while, the sea slug in the water tank still didn't light up. The skinny guy wasn't satisfied. He unlocked the water tank and used a tool to poke at it. Still no reaction. There's no doubt it's a publicity stunt. How boring. It's not worth 80 million at all. Because they knew that Feng Zhao wouldn't be coming back, no one usually came here. The two of them weren't in a hurry and were still in the mood to chat. I suddenly thought of a movie that was released recently, that sci-fi movie about sea slugs. Oh, you mean the one that's been trending online recently, the one about sea slugs that take advantage of their owner's absence to open the water tank and crawl out? Yes, yes, yes. It's rather interesting. After watching that movie, every time I see a sea slug locked in a water tank, I can't help but wonder if a sea slug can really open the lid and crawl out by itself. Tisk, one look and I can tell that you've never raised a sea slug before. You actually believe that? Science fiction is all about fantasy. Those are all things that can't possibly happen. But this one is really big. I've never seen such a big one of the shaggy-haired species. It's enough to cook a pot. The atmosphere suddenly became quiet. The two of them were silent for a while and looked at each other. Wouldn't it be too wasteful to eat it? Should we fish it out when we leave? We can sell it for quite a bit. It's too eye-catching. Researchers won't take a liking to it, and pet owners rarely buy it. There's only one in the entire world. Why don't we just cook it? I just took a look. There's a pot in the kitchen that can cook a pot, and there are all sorts of condiments. A certain and scrupulous entertainment reporter swallowed his saliva. He loved eating sea slugs, and this species in front of him that he had never tried before made him envious. Eating an 80 million hot pot in a celebrity's house? The skinny guy's eyes flashed with excitement. Exciting! After eating, leave some soup residue for Feng Zhao. I wonder what kind of reaction Feng Zhao will have when he comes back and sees it. He'll probably explode? Hee. The more he thought about it, the more excited he got. Say it lazily. See you tomorrow. Chapter 431. I should be the first entertainment reporter to sneak into Feng Zhao's house? The person taking pictures of Feng Zhao's house was a little pleased. Yes, even Wang Tai hasn't been inside. Speaking of which, Wang Tai doesn't seem to be interested in news about Feng Zhao. He has exposed so much, but the news about Feng Zhao can be counted on one hand. He even proclaims himself the king of Yinzhou's paparazzi, the skinny guy said as he fiddled with his equipment. Wang Tai, who does he think he is? The entertainment reporter sneered. Ever since he was locked up, Wang Tai is no longer the Wang Tai of the past. He's so timid, a piece of trash. The entertainment reporter flipped through the drawers in the study but didn't find anything useful. Even the music scores and manuscripts were from a long time ago. However, they were Feng Zhao's handwritten manuscripts, so he still took a few pictures. Feng Zhao's own music score symbols would be destroyed every time they were converted to music scores for general use. Important works would either be carried around or kept in a safer place. They wouldn't be left in an unoccupied house for long periods of time. So now, this bad entertainment reporter didn't find any particularly useful information. However, he still took pictures of every corner of the house. This was also the request of his employer. Who knew? His employer might be able to dig up some important information from the small details in the photos or videos. As for the skinny professional thief, after flipping through the room, he still focused on the collection rack. He deftly turned off the alarm, disconnected the collection rack from the owner's personal terminal, and connected to a fake information source. Even if Feng Zhao checked the collection rack from his personal terminal, he wouldn't find anything unusual. After doing all this, he opened a slot in the collection rack and was about to take out the limited edition gaming helmet when he was stopped by his colleague. Are you sure there's no problem? The display rack's control system is only bound to a personal terminal? The entertainment reporter asked. As a veteran entertainment reporter, he felt that something wasn't right because there wasn't any important information in the house. Although the skinny guy felt that there was no need, since the other party had said so and time wasn't tight, he checked again. No problem. It's only bound to Feng Zhao's personal terminal. It's already blocked. That's good. After confirming that it was safe, the skinny guy took out the gaming helmet from the slot. This is the commemorative gaming helmet that Fiery Bird displayed at last year's thank you ceremony. Designed by a world-renowned design master, it's high-end. Only a few important clients and spokespersons have it. Many people have bid for it online, and the top 10 bids have already exceeded 7 figures. They can be resold after some processing. At the same time, in the dormitory of the Huangzhou Academy of Art, due to the time difference, night had yet to fall in Huangzhou. Feng Zhao had gone to class and had yet to return. In the dormitory, Curly Hair was sleeping and snoring. He had followed Feng Zhao to Yinzhou, played games, and slept soundly. As for that rabbit, Feng Zhao was worried that Curly Hair would eat it in a fit of excitement, so he had left it at home. He hadn't brought it along this time. However, Curly Hair, who had been sleeping, seemed to have been startled by something. He suddenly jumped up from his bed, his sleepiness instantly disappearing. His entire body stiffened as he carefully tried to discern something. He let out a low growl and then paced around the dormitory impatiently. Yinzhou, Feng Zhao's house in Qian City. After the skinny man put the first game helmet in place, he took the second game helmet out of the slot. In the dormitory, all the hair on Curly Hair's body was standing on end. His eyes were filled with an ominous glint. His lips parted to reveal his sharp teeth as he growled even more anxiously. It wanted to scratch the floor and bite something, but Feng Zhao had warned it, so it could only stop. However, the trembling upper lip and the baring of his sharp teeth showed that this dog was already in a violent rage. Click. The dormitory door opened. Feng Zhao had returned from class. The moment he saw Feng Zhao, Curly Hair rushed over and howled at Feng Zhao. After closing the door, Feng Zhao looked at Curly Hair in confusion. What happened? Woof, 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 woof. The furious curly hair jumped and howled in front of Feng Zhao, as if he was anxious to tell him something. However, Feng Zhao couldn't understand what he was trying to convey. However, he knew that Curly Hair's anger was definitely not directed at him. But what exactly could cause Curly Hair to have such a reaction? Don't be anxious. Take your time. What do you want to say? The more anxious he was, the more he didn't know how to express himself. After calming down, Feng Zhao could guide Curly Hair on how to express himself more clearly. At this moment, in the dormitory in Yinzhou, the skinny man removed the third game helmet. Curly Hair, who had just been calmed down by Feng Zhao, jumped up anxiously once again. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. If it had been a human, he would have started speaking incoherently. This was the first time Feng Zhao had seen Curly Hair like this. Something big must have happened. No matter how smart Curly Hair was, his ability to express himself was limited due to the language barrier. Furthermore, Curly Hair was in a state of agitation and had lost his cool. Feng Zhao really didn't understand what those howls meant. Feng Zhao could not continue wasting time like this. He decided to grab the gaming helmet. Curly Hair knew how to play games. Under Feng Zhao's training, he had learned some commonly used words and letters in games. It was still a little difficult for him to write a complete sentence in the dialogue box, but he should be able to write keywords. As long as Feng Zhao knew the keywords, it would be easier for him to piece together what Curly Hair was trying to say. However, at this moment, Curly Hair was already in a state of intense emotional turmoil. When he saw Feng Zhao walk away, he thought that Feng Zhao didn't take him seriously and was so anxious that tears were about to flow. Just as Feng Zhao was about to walk over to the cabinet where Curly Hair had hidden his helmet, an urgent shout rang out in the dormitory. Feng Zhao. Amidst the aura of intense emotions, there seemed to be high-frequency mechanical sounds and the roar of high-speed motors. It sounded very strange. But at this moment, the sound was no longer Feng Zhao's focus. Feng Zhao turned around abruptly and revealed a rare look of astonishment. The dog that he had raised for so long. Speak, speak, speak. Although he had already mentally prepared himself when Curly Hair had unintentionally hummed the game background music, Feng Zhao had never expected this day to come so quickly and so suddenly. Curly Hair stared straight at Feng Zhao. His usually clear and innocent dog eyes were flickering with radiance, as if they were hiding an endless and mysterious galaxy. In the room, the air seemed to have frozen. But very quickly, this atmosphere was broken. A roar that was 30% aggrieved and 70% impatient rang out in the dormitory. My game console has been stolen. Yinzhou, Qian City, Feng Zhao's residence. The skinny guy was packing up the items that he thought would sell on the shelves. Is this really Feng Zhao's residence? There are too few things. Don't tell me he has another residence. This might just be one of his many residences. People like him shouldn't only have one property under their name. More private items might be hidden elsewhere. That's also possible. I'm almost done searching. Are you done filming? Let's go eat the sea slug hot pot after filming. I'm a little hungry, but I heard that thing is poisonous. We won't be poisoned to death, right? The skinny guy said, Don't worry. Everything will be fine once it's settled. People who often ate sea slugs were very clear about the steps to slaughter and how to clean them. Sea slugs have high nutritional value. This one, which is worth 80 million, is definitely the best. Don't miss it when you encounter it. Since its other aspects are suspected to be hype, its value could be reflected in its nutritional and medicinal value. This trip was worth it. Really worth it. Seeing that the skinny guy was still worried, that person continued, Why don't we fish it out and bring it back? We can try it on an animal. If there are no problems, we can eat it. That's a good idea. Later on, you go kill that sea slug first. I'll go find some ice to bring back to eat. If we bring it back alive, it will easily die and affect the taste. After saying that, the two of them planned to continue searching. Suddenly, they heard a light click, like the sound of a lid being buckled. The two people in the room paused at the same time and held their breaths. The sound insulation of the doors and windows was very good. The surrounding noise was blocked out, and the room was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. In the living room, there was the sound of water dripping, but it quickly disappeared. The skinny guy took out his dagger, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. The entertainment reporter also took out his gun. This was a gun he had found someone to buy, and it came from a shady background. The two of them quietly went to the living room and looked around carefully, but they didn't see anyone. The living room's furnishings were very simple. There weren't many places where people could hide. His eyes carefully scanned every corner of the living room. When the entertainment reporter saw the water tank, his eyes widened. "Where's that sea slug?" As soon as he said that, when the two of them looked at the water tank, a big fur ball with a diameter of more than 1 meter suddenly appeared in a pot of woody plants. The intense pain stimulated their nerves. Two painful cries sounded at the same time. Screams, groans, silent fainting. After a few breaths, the two of them fell to the ground. The room became quiet again, and the big fur ball that suddenly appeared just now shrank at a speed visible to the naked eye until it returned to its original size. The sea slug that had been locked in the water tank had escaped again. Furthermore, its body, which could normally be held up with 2 hands, rapidly expanded when it sensed danger approaching. Its body of loose hair stuck out as its body expanded. In order to avoid leaving behind fingerprints and body fluids, the two intruders wore gloves, masks, long sleeves, pants, and bulletproof vests. Although the bulletproof vests blocked part of the damage, their gloves and masks were easily pierced. The two of them were stung on their hands, arms, and faces. Everything happened in an instant, and the two of them were caught off guard. Their vision blurred, and the stung areas were numb from the pain. The venom spread rapidly. The knives and guns in their hands fell to the ground. Their legs couldn't support them anymore. They staggered 2 steps before collapsing and losing consciousness. After a while, the rabbit, hiding in the pot of plants, crawled down and climbed onto one of them. It extended its 2 antennae and probed. Then it climbed onto the other person and probed. After that, it left uninterestedly and went to gnaw on the potted plants in the living room. It had been brought to Huangzhou by Feng Zhao for a period of time. The potted plants in the house had sprouted tender leaves again, and 2 of them had even bloomed, and the 2 unconscious people on the ground were stung once. When the rabbit crawled over to test them, it was stung again. Chapter 432. Huang Art Dormitory. Nanfeng, Yinbiao, and Zuoyu were all here with Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao had already informed them about the burglary at his house in Yinzhou and had already contacted Silver Wing. Silver Wing knew how to handle it. They were experienced in such matters, and with Feng Zhao's status, the company didn't dare be careless. They believed that they would get a reply soon. Feng Zhao needed time to rush over. There was nothing shameful in the house, and there were no classified documents there. There was no rush. He could wait for the results. Silver Wing had asked Feng Zhao if he wanted to handle this matter in the dark or in the open. Dark meant sending people over to take a look, while in the open meant contacting the police. Feng Zhao chose in the open. Of course, regardless of whether it was in the open or in the dark, it had to be done discreetly. After all, Feng Zhao was now a public figure. At this moment, Nanfeng was restless. His face was pale. Luckily, Feng Zhao didn't have anything shameful in the house, so he didn't need to worry about any scandals being exposed. But 80 million. There was a sea slug worth 80 million in that house. The most expensive in the entire house. Would a knowledgeable thief miss it? Even those few limited edition gaming helmets combined couldn't compare to the sea slug's value. Perhaps the thief had gone in to steal the sea slug. Nanfeng was very regretful now. He really had to carry such a valuable item on him at all times. When Feng Zhao had brought him to the dormitory, he had only paid attention at the start. Afterward, his attention had shifted to curly hair. After all, curly hair was worth 200 million, and with military merits, his hidden value was much higher. However, this didn't mean that he didn't care about that 80 million. Nanfeng had already prepared himself for the sea slug to be stolen. He consoled himself and thought. Luckily, Curly Hair was with Feng Zhao all along. Turning his head, Nanfeng saw Curly Hair squatting at Feng Zhao's feet listlessly. He took a closer look and was shocked. Boss, why is our Curly Hair crying? Yin Biao and Zuoyu also looked over. They hadn't noticed before, but now that they heard Nanfeng's words, they realized that Curly Hair's eyes had obvious tear stains, as if he had just cried. Dogs can cry? Yin Biao was curious. He had been Feng Zhao's bodyguard for so long, but he had never seen Curly Hair cry. He hadn't paid much attention to pets in the past, so he really didn't know that dogs could cry. Of course it can cry. My former comrade's dog loves to cry. Crying at the scolding? Nanfeng and the other two looked at the expressionless Feng Zhao and then at the listless Curly Hair. Had he been scolded by Feng Zhao? Sensing the gazes of the three, Feng Zhao glanced at Curly Hair, who was hanging his head. I heard his house was burgled and he was so angry that he cried. Oh, I see. Understood. When I found out, I was so angry that I almost cried. Nanfeng and the other two nodded, but they didn't think so. What did Curly Hair know? He must have been scolded by the boss. Feng Zhao had probably given Curly Hair a good scolding before the three of them had arrived. Or could it be that Feng Zhao had vented his anger on Curly Hair because his house had been broken into? Feng Zhao was not in the mood to care about what the three of them were thinking. Even the matter of his house being burgled in Yinzhou had to wait. What he was thinking about the most now was Curly Hair. The dog spoke. Then, Feng Zhao realized that the dog didn't seem to realize that he had spoken. Just like the time when he had unintentionally hummed the background music, Curly Hair hadn't realized that he had spoken human language either. His attention was probably focused on his 3 stolen game consoles. No, that's not right. Those are my game consoles. When did they become his? Feng Zhao frowned and sized up Curly Hair. Before calling Nanfeng and the other two over, Feng Zhao had told Curly Hair not to make a sound. It would be bad if he accidentally spoke human language and was overheard. Now, Curly Hair really didn't make a sound. However, from the looks of it, he would probably cry again if all the game consoles were stolen. Logically speaking, there was a high chance that someone capable of bypassing the alarm system and destroying the surveillance cameras would be able to escape unscathed before the police arrived. Curly Hair hadn't learned much from his trip to Whale Island, but he had learned how to cry. Feng Zhao had also asked Curly Hair how he knew there was a burglar in his house. Curly Hair still couldn't say anything. To be precise, he couldn't speak clearly. His pronunciation was very strange, like a child that hadn't learned how to speak yet. He didn't know what he was saying at all. The only 2 sentences he could enunciate were Feng Zhao and my game consoles were stolen. These were all said in a moment of desperation. After that, Curly Hair typed out a few keywords in the chat box with the help of the gaming helmet in the dormitory. Feng Zhao could roughly guess what he wanted to express. How did Curly Hair know that there was a burglar stealing the gaming helmet? Because he had bound the gaming helmet to the display rack. He had used his own method, and it wasn't easy to find out. As for how he bound it and why he used such a method, for Curly Hair, it was just a sudden realization. Using it was as simple as eating and drinking. It was an innate skill, just like a baby drinking milk. If there was a difference, Curly Hair hadn't been born with this ability. At least, Curly Hair hadn't known this before. That day, when he stared at the display rack, he had a feeling that he could bind it. In short, Curly Hair couldn't explain it. While Feng Zhao was pondering Curly Hair's question, there was finally a reply from Yinzhou. Silver Wing had set up a temporary team the moment they received Feng Zhao's call to handle this matter. The person who had contacted Feng Zhao was the person in charge of this team. He was also the one who had contacted the police. Probably nothing was lost. The 2 intruders have also been arrested. However, this matter is a little troublesome. The person in charge glanced at the 2 stretchers being carried into the emergency flying transport. When we arrived, the 2 of them were lying on the ground with swollen bodies like pigs. We have already confirmed their identities. Those 2 are on the A-level wanted list and are suspected to have been poisoned. Their lives are in danger and must be treated immediately. If we wait any longer, We can only contact the forensics team. There is no way to completely suppress this matter now. It's best if you come over tomorrow. We might need your cooperation in the investigation." Fang Zhao's expression became more and more strange as he listened. "All right, got it." The other side paused for a moment before asking in a low voice, "Did you hide any dangerous drugs at home?" "No," Fang Zhao replied. The other side asked a few more questions before ending the call. After Fang Zhao hung up, Nanfeng hurriedly asked, "How was it? Was the sea slug stolen?" "No, it was in the water tank when the police arrived." Nanfeng let out a long sigh of relief and asked without much hope, "Have the thieves been caught?" "Caught. They are being resuscitated," Fang Zhao replied. Nanfeng and the other two. "Resuscitated?" Curly hair whimpered at the side. Fang Zhao glanced at him. Gaming helmets and other valuables weren't taken. Nothing was stolen. Fang Zhao let Sui Yu and Yin Biao head over to Qi and City first. He would head over after his classes the next day. Yinzhou's Qi and City. The person in charge of Silver Wing's handling of Fang Zhao's matter was frowning as he contacted the hospital. It would be best if he could find out what poison the two had been poisoned with and how they had been poisoned. He was guessing what Fang Zhao had hidden at home. He felt that Fang Zhao was definitely hiding something. Perhaps it was even illegal goods, but Fang Zhao was unwilling to confess. Since Fang Zhao had chosen to do it openly, it probably wouldn't involve drugs. However, Fang Zhao had Blackstreet experience. He was worried that Fang Zhao had dealt in other illegal drugs, especially such highly toxic ones. Sigh, what a headache. He had thought that the matter could be resolved quickly and quietly, but he hadn't expected such a situation to occur. Silver Wing had no way of smoothing things over in a short period of time. Given the identities of the two thieves, this matter wouldn't be easily forgotten. In the building Fang Zhao lived in, a certain internet celebrity was broadcasting live from a room a few stories lower. He was taking pictures of the night scene and singing a very artistic night song to express his surging emotions. Just as he was immersed in it, he saw an emergency flying transport with a white background and a red label. There were also flashing warning lights. The internet celebrity stopped singing and turned the camera to the sky. It seems to be a resident on the top floor. I wonder what happened. There's even the police? Could it be some kind of malicious incident? I'm a little scared. As he said that, he received a push notification from a social media outlet. He clicked on it and saw that the photo attached was of the top floor. It had been taken by an entertainment reporter from another building. The angle was different, but he could clearly see a few uniformed police officers, as well as the emergency flying transport that had flown over and landed on the tarmac on the top floor. When he took a look at the owner of the building, the internet celebrity was shocked. His first reaction, "Fuck, Fang Zhao lives above me?" His second reaction, "Something big happened." There were police officers and an emergency flying transport. How could it be a small matter? If it had been anyone else, everyone would have just treated it as tonight's news. They would have seen it, talked about it, and let it go. But now, it was a celebrity who was famous in all 12 continents. Not long ago, they had been discussing him. When the audience in the live broadcast room heard what the internet celebrity said, they immediately exploded. The audience wasn't just from Yinzhou. They came from every continent. Something happened to Fang Zhao's family? It's confirmed. 2 Yinzhou reporters have already exposed this news on social media platforms. The internet celebrity hurriedly glanced at the increasing number of online viewers and excitedly flipped through many web pages and platforms. Up until now, 3 entertainment reporters from Yinzhou have confirmed that the person living on the top floor is Fang Zhao. There should be no mistake. But we don't know what happened to Fang Zhao's family. It should be a little serious. Now, the entertainment reporters in Qi and City are like flies that have smelled shit, cough, bears that have smelled honey. They are starting to dig for the truth behind this. I will continue to follow this matter. I wonder if I can go up and take a look. 110, police number, plus 120, emergency number, equals serious incident. 110 plus 120 plus celebrities? Or was it one of the brightest stars in Yinzhou in the past 2 years? Netizens couldn't be serious. Besides Fang Zhao's fans, The majority of the people who had gathered here were purely here to watch the show. Curious. This was the Fangzhou that had been the hottest topic recently. The genius artist in everyone's eyes. The new product ambassador that Fiery Bird headquarters had personally appointed. The role model of the younger generation that had been praised many times by authoritative media outlets and military newspapers from every continent. Finally, there was still negative news. 5 minutes later, someone from Huangzhou confirmed that Fang Zhao was at Huangart. 2 hours ago, Huangart students had seen Fang Zhao in class. It was impossible for him to be in Yinzhou. Then, who was living in Fang Zhao's house now? A relative? A friend? Or? Nanfeng's face darkened as he read through all the wild guesses online. Boss, do you want to post an explanation online? Nanfeng showed Fang Zhao the latest entertainment news that had popped up. He saw that the headlines of 4 consecutive news feeds were all about Fang Zhao. The headlines were enlarged and bolded. Romance exposed? Mysterious woman found in Fang Zhao's mansion. Shock. Popular celebrity hiding a mistress in a secret house? Yin police raid Fang Zhao's mansion. Many arrested. Fang Zhao's public image collapses? Insider reveals. At least 3 months. Fang Zhao. Chapter 433. From the moment the first photo was released, within an hour, the entertainment reporters had basically all released the same thing. The opening photo, the content was all made up. The truth? The truth was important, but traffic was even more important. At times like this, traffic was what they were fighting for. Whoever could grab the most traffic at the first possible moment would be the one grabbing the most money. Was rumor-mongering in the entertainment circle considered rumor-mongering? That was speculation. Otherwise, when the truth came out, what would happen if there weren't any topics to stir up? Take advantage of this opportunity to earn a wave first. These entertainment reporters weren't just making things up without logic. They even provided all sorts of analysis as if they were the truth. Fang Zhao had indeed disappeared for a period of time because he had to attend his graduation concert and because of the Whale Island matter. The netizens' thoughts were also carried along as they read the entertainment reporter's analysis. Thinking about how long Fang Zhao had been missing, these analyses all seemed reasonable. There were photos and facts showing that Fang Zhao had stayed in Qian City for 2 days before leaving in a hurry. Perhaps, as some entertainment reporter had guessed, he had gone to meet his lover? Or perhaps it was the invisible incident that the entertainment reporter next door had mentioned. After all, even the police had been mobilized. The entertainment reporters made up stories enthusiastically, and the onlookers were excited. Some media personnel who hadn't been able to make it to the first round of traffic saw the rising traffic of others and got envious, so they also joined in. There were also those who stirred the waters. If they didn't step in, they would be letting down such a good opportunity. They absolutely couldn't allow Silver Wing to cover up this matter. Of course, there were also some people who disdained doing this, such as Wang Tai. They didn't blindly fabricate things. As long as it was exposed, there was solid evidence. Their business directions were different. Normally, they earned their own money and didn't undermine each other. They didn't say anything in private, but at least on the surface, they got along harmoniously. Now, Wang Tai snorted disdainfully at those truth monarchs online. If a person like Fang Zhao really wanted to hide anything, would he let this bunch of trash find him? Although Wang Tai didn't dare openly involve himself in Fang Zhao's matters, he was also curious about this matter. He wasn't the kind of person who would just stand at the side and stare. So he put on a fake identity and joined in the fun. One look and it's obvious that Fang Zhao took the initiative to contact the police. Perhaps someone suffered at Fang Zhao's hands. I just don't know who was so unlucky. In any case, he was not the unlucky one. Wang Tai was happy to watch others make a fool of themselves and wait for the truth to be revealed. In Lizhou, Zero was preparing to take a nap. He had been thrown by his dad to train the past few days. Whenever he had the time, he wanted to rest more. He was not in the mood for anything else. However, just as he closed his eyes, Wu Tianhao's call came. Have you seen the news on the internet? Someone's public image is about to be ruined. Wu Tianhao laughed wickedly. Zero yawned and said, "So be it. It's boring. Every day, there are scandals that destroy a person's image. It's so annoying." Fang Zhao is in trouble, Wu Tianhao said excitedly. Zero's drowsiness immediately vanished. Who? Quite a few core members of the Renault family had attended the Whale Island conference. Zero's father was one of them. They knew about Fang Zhao. They also knew a little about Fang Zhao's meritorious service on Whale Island. Looking at Fang Zhao, then looking at his own son, he wanted to beat him up. Thus, after the Whale Island conference ended, Zero was thrown into training by his father. During this period, what he heard the most was, "Look at Fang Zhao." Now, when he heard that Fang Zhao was involved, Zero was excited. He searched the internet and found all sorts of things. Zero was so excited that his spittle flew everywhere. This kind of thing is so secretive. One look and I can tell that he has a guilty conscience. Based on my 20 years of experience in the entertainment circle, there is an 80% to 90% chance that he is hiding a mistress. How awesome. Fang Zhao actually did something that even I don't dare to do. The Renault family elders had already told Zero to be open about dating and making friends. There was no need to be secretive. There was no choice. The Renault family elders were also worried. It wasn't that they were too strict, but that Zero's IQ was limited. The family was afraid that he would be killed if he wasn't careful. Zero wasn't satisfied talking to Wu Tianhao, so he contacted Chu Bo. "Fuck, do you know that Fang Zhao is in trouble?" Chu Bo, who had just finished a concert and had been criticized by his family for not being able to control himself, wasn't in a good mood. He didn't even go online and was squatting in the recording studio gloomily. The news that Zero brought immediately roused his spirits. Really? Chu Bo flipped over and browsed the news online. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. To think that he would have such a day. Chu Bo had complicated feelings when he mentioned Fang Zhao. He felt that Fang Zhao was a rather good person, but ever since he had been frightened by Fang Zhao during that performance, he had been traumatized for a long period of time. Now, the trauma had dispersed a little, but it hadn't completely disappeared. Now that he saw that Fang Zhao had also gotten himself into such a matter, the trauma he had felt toward Fang Zhao had dispersed quite a bit. Look, Fang Zhao was just an ordinary person. There was nothing to be afraid of. With this thought, Chu Bo gave Fang Zhao a call to express his consolation and ask if he needed any help. If he could make Fang Zhao owe him a favor, Chu Bo felt that the psychological trauma Fang Zhao had given him would disappear. This was what Chu Bo had always thought. Those who were better than him wouldn't come looking for him and wouldn't need his help. On the contrary, those who needed his help were definitely not as good as him. Since they were not as good as him, what was there to be afraid of? Thus, Fang Zhao received consolation calls from Zero, Wu Tianhao, Chu Bo, and the others. They couldn't conceal their delight at Fang Zhao's misfortune. Fang Zhao, are these little kids itching for a beating? Of course, besides Zero and the others, Fang Zhao also received calls from many others. Even Imo Lang had specially called to ask about it. These people were genuinely concerned. Although it wasn't convenient to divulge the details because the police were still investigating, Fang Zhao also expressed that it wasn't a big deal. All the rumors online were just nonsense. All they had to do was wait for the truth. While the internet was abuzz with speculation, Zui Yu and Yin Biao arrived at Qian City and went to Fang Zhao's home first. There were 2 police officers standing guard there. After confirming their identities, Zui Yu and Yin Biao entered the house. Seeing the messy interior, Zui Yu pursed his lips. "Boss, it's time to move." Given Fang Zhao's current status, it really wasn't suitable for him to stay here. This place was indeed considered a luxurious home for ordinary people, but for a public figure and someone with sufficient exposure in the entertainment circle, it wasn't enough. Yin Biao looked around and his gaze stopped at the water tank. The 80 million is still here. Following Fang Zhao's instructions, Yin Biao switched on his communications device and contacted Fang Zhao to initiate a video call. "Boss, we are already here." Yin Biao showed Fang Zhao the situation at home. "It's not too bad." On the other end, Fang Zhao casually glanced at the somewhat messy house and told Yin Biao, "Check if the water tank is unlocked." Yin Biao approached and took a look. "It's unlocked. The lid of the water tank can be opened." This time, Feng Zhao was silent for a slightly longer time. Boss? Yin Biao asked doubtfully. Zuiyu also did a careful inspection. He heard that the two burglars had fainted nearby, but he didn't find any traces of a mechanism. Feng Zhao sighed deeply and told Yin Biao, stick a note on the water tank. Do not approach poison. Write it bigger and more eye-catching. Zuiyu and Yin Biao. Boss, you mean those two were stung? MMHM, Zuiyu and Yin Biao took a step back. Feng Zhao scanned the area and saw that 2 pots of flowers in the living room had been chewed on. It was obvious that the rabbit in the water tank had come out. After confirming his suspicions, Feng Zhao applied for leave and returned to Yinzhou after class the next day. The two that had been sent to the hospital were finally out of danger, but they were still unconscious. The police now knew that the two had been poisoned by the sea slug, but there were still some questions they needed to ask Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao cooperated and showed his breeding permit and all sorts of documents. The documents were complete, and there were no problems with the breeding. The police also checked the sea slug feed in Feng Zhao's house. Sea slugs were common pets, and without approval, they weren't allowed to be fed toxic feed. Although the police had already confirmed that the feed in Feng Zhao's house was completely non-toxic, this didn't prove that the feed the sea slug had been fed was also non-toxic. After that, many professors who researched sea slugs compared the data and even specially obtained data from the sea slug's breeder from a long time ago. In the end, they came to a conclusion. What caused the two to be hospitalized was just the little bit of toxicity that it produced through photosynthesis. It was only released when it sensed danger, and it had absolutely nothing to do with the feed. If it had really been fed toxic feed, forget about being highly toxic, just a little bit of toxicity would have killed the two before the police arrived. Police. So, those two deserved it. Looking at the pot and seasoning that had been flipped over in the kitchen, one could tell what the two were planning. It could only be said that those two had asked for it by entering the house vertically and coming out horizontally. They deserved to be stung, and they were lucky that Feng Zhao hadn't fed them toxic feed. However, there was still a doubt that hadn't been resolved. The areas on the two's bodies that had been stung were too large, and they didn't know how it had happened. Could it be that the two had hugged the sea slug and rolled around? Those would have to wait for the two to wake up before questioning them. Right now, there were no problems on Feng Zhao's side. The person sent by Silver Wing to resolve the matter with Feng Zhao also heaved a sigh of relief. No wonder Feng Zhao had dared to call the police. He really hadn't done anything illegal and hadn't used any underhanded methods. He had thought too highly of Feng Zhao. Feng Zhao was a rare clean slate. However, the matter wasn't over yet. All sorts of rumors were flying around online, and they needed the help of the police to clarify things. Otherwise, people wouldn't believe Silverwing's words, and they had to contact several authoritative media outlets. Those people's words carried weight. Silverwing's team would handle the aftermath. Thus, a day after the incident, one of Yinzhou's authoritative media outlets released a piece of news. Frowny-faced two wanted criminals sneaked into Feng Zhao's residence in the middle of the night to cook a sea slug worth 80 million. Instead, they were stung and sent to the hospital, nearly losing their lives. After waiting a day for the first authoritative media outlet to make a statement, people all over the world who saw this piece of news were shocked. Ha ha, what kind of idiotic news is this? Those two are fucking idiots. That's right, they could even sneak into a luxurious residence. Their IQ shouldn't be. What's the rush? They nearly poisoned themselves to death over a sea slug, suspecting that Feng Zhao directed and acted on his own. How could there be such a stupid thief? Feng Zhao again? Is it a publicity stunt? Or is he making it up to hide the truth? What's there to make up? Just now, Yinzhou's Qi and city police have already confirmed the identities of those two. There's an official stamp. It's real news. Those two are on the police's A-grade wanted list. This time, Feng Zhao's sea slug has done a meritorious deed. Really? Those two are really on the police's A-grade wanted list? If it's true, I have to say to those two, they fucking deserved it. As expected of my idol, even the sea slug he keeps can catch thieves. A certain person from Pet Magazine, who had previously evaluated Feng Zhao's two pets, was agitated when he saw this. I told you, that one is really super dangerous. Now do you guys believe me? Back then, I had worn such thick gloves, and just trying to touch it, my arm had nearly been stung to the point of being crippled. It really wasn't my fault, but that rabbit was just that savage. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.